industrialized nations combined. Combined. This is an American phenomenon. This is only in America does this shit happen. Doesn't happen anywhere else. Rarely does it happen anywhere else. And let me thank Logic Bees, who came in with another $2. Thank you, baby. Chris Hawkins, who came in with $5, and Logic Bees, who came in with another dollar, and another dollar, and another dollar. And Chris Hawkins came in with $2. Thank you very much. And Shaking Me Bones came in with a very nice donation and said, "I want to be sure to tell you that you and the Blue Dot family have brought such inspiration, hope, joy, and light into my life that you and the family deserve a round of applause at the least. I'm just trying to say how much you all impacted my life and how much I love you all. Thank you so much." Just thank you, Sandy.
I'll applaud to that, brother. I'll applaud to that.
And
Straight up.
Amen.
it's this family, and I made a comment earlier that this is for a lot of us, uh, most of our family or all of our family dried up, went away, or the dynamics within the family have changed to a degree that it is hard to, it's hard to even celebrate the holidays, or in this my case right now, it's difficult to not have those that should be here not here.
A lot of
And
contention.
yeah,
A lot of fear.
this man has changed our society, not for the better. This man came into our house, started kicking shit cans all over the place, preaching his message of hate, which is the only thing you could say it is. That's the only thing Donald Trump runs on is hate. Hate somebody.
And
Hate your neighbor, hate your friends, hate your family. It doesn't fucking matter. We live in the worst country in the world. Oh my God, if he's not in charge, we're all doomed to burn in hell. That's what he thinks.
Can save us.
Only he. Only he can save us. It's fucking bullshit.
Right.
And
I
he
always
sells
trusted
it.
the guy in high school that was always in trouble and never could admit that he'd done anything wrong. And the whole world, remember that guy? The
Yeah.
whole world was against him, right?
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
Got these
That's
people
what he
wrapped
is.
around his little finger.
because they think that he's like the messiah of them. I'm like, dude, no. Like
Yeah,
they are just so fucking stupid.
Well, Goebbels he said it. You tell somebody something 3 times and they'll hear you. Now listen to the way the man talks. Every time he has a point to say something, he'll say that point 3 times, real within
If you
succession.
repeat it.
And you tell them 30 times, and they'll start to believe it. You tell them 300, they'll fight for it. You tell them 3,000, they'll die for it.
They'll die for it. They'll put it in their Bible.
Straight
I
up.
just, oh man, I can't
But the
believe the
trend
amount
doesn't
of
lie,
people
John.
that have.
The trend doesn't lie. 2019 we had 24 incidents. In 2020 we had 27. 2021 we had 42. 2022 we had 50.
Yes,
And
I
now
saw
we're
the
coming
same graphic.
into the trend's going up, and it only goes one way. It's the MAGA rhetoric, and it's these kids, unfortunately, that are going home to parents that wear red hats and bitch about the other.
And live in a gun
them
culture.
and
That's the answer
all
to
day
all
long.
the problems is if whoever has the biggest gun. More guns. You got to have more guy, or you're going to lose. It's that kind of shit. I can't, as far as this story goes, Uncle Fatty, I can't get over the fucking fact that he's 14 years old and his dad went out and bought him a fucking rifle.
After
Knowing
he
the
was
problem,
home.
after the police had already come to the house because he's been making terroristic threats. Are you shitting me?
That's the MAGA
But
mentality right
that
there.
is the gun
Let me put my red
mentality of
hat on
this
and walk
nation.
down and show you how big of a threat he is. Bunch of bullshit.
And it should not be difficult to pass gun laws in this nation. The Second Amendment doesn't say a goddamn thing that your right to own a weapon should not be infringed. Okay, just jump through these 50 fucking hoops first, because every other nation in the world does it. We can't do it because I swear, this is what pisses me off. I don't give a shit what fucking religion you think you are. The gun is more powerful than God. Because every time you see one of these redneck fucking right-wing nut jobs, it's God and guns. Really? What do those have in common? What two things does God and guns have in fucking common? Nothing.
Preach.
But that's what they live on. They thrive on it. Because one of them gives the right to judge you and the other one gives the right to kill you.
That's it, brother. It's, you know what they have in common is rationalizations and justifications. I've been saying it, and I'll say it again. MAGA is
My
an
God,
addiction.
says I could do this.
You know,
They drain so much bullying, they won't come back from it.
no.
Oh, I guess so.
You have to see through the addiction. You have to work past the denial. And when I confront my friends, when I confront my family members, calmly, softly, aggressively, really aggressively, it doesn't matter. I'm met with the same exact scenario. Denial, followed by fight or flight, followed by rationalizations and justifications and cop-outs and excuses and lies
Oh, we're
and delusions of
good at
grandeur
that.
and stories, and the world is against me and the world is against me.
We're
And
good at
only
that
I
shit.
can fix it because it's my
Only
problem.
I, yeah. Oh, God, he's got, only he can fix this shit.
Right into the
Oh yeah.
psychosomatic range.
Hey, before
How's
we,
Brother Mitch doing?
how are you, Mitch?
I'm super duper. How are you?
I'm hanging in there, brother. Like a, what would Andy Paguda say? Like a hair in a biscuit, baby. I'm still hanging in.
He would say
Hey.
that, would he?
He would say that. Hey, let me catch up real quick, Mitch, before we
Right
get
on.
started. Let me see. Spunky, 1991. Where did you go, buddy? Came in with a $5 donation and said, Alan Lichman, who has correctly predicted the winner of each presidential election since 1984, has predicted Kamala Harris will beat Trump. Oh, and the numbers just keep getting better. Tony Lester came in with a $2 donation. Thank you very much. Our own Mitch Goldstein came in with a $5 donation and said, we are gonna win. Vote blue, baby. And Jimbo came in with $5, said, we love you. And Marcia too, John. Jimbo, thank you very much for that. I appreciate the shit out of that. Oh no, where'd it go? Logic Bees came in with another $1 and said, we have each other, Dots. We do, and our numbers keep going up. Irene Marconi came in with a $10 donation. And y'all gonna wear this gong out. My wife's out there saying, what the hell is he doing in there? Logic Bees came in with another $2. And Tony Luster donated $5 through Super Chat and said, I hope Kamala's first act is hiring Jack Smith as the new Attorney General. Well, let's see what happens with that because, I think there's going to be a change. Changes in the
I'd
wind.
love to see that. That'd be so badass.
Oh, no. Wait a minute. I'm lost.
You
Let me-
lost track.
My brain cannot. Oh, wait, right there.
You all right there, buddy?
I think I'm right there. I'm losing track. Mitch,
Yeah.
how's Julie? How's what? How's Julie? That's what.
Julie's super.
Good. I knew that.
Yeah, everybody's doing okay.
Good. So what do you think about the debate coming up, buddy?
You know, I kind of poo-pooed the last debate, and it turned out not to be a particularly good debate, but a nonetheless pivotal event in the campaign. And it is my belief that this is also going to be a pivotal event
It will be, I think.
because this will be the first time Donald Trump and Kamala Harris have been in the same place,
Taking up the
Yeah,
same
point
airspace.
pointed at each other. So
I'm
what
loving
can
it.
you say?
I'm-
Donald's going to lie. He's going to drag out these saws. You know, I watched this feature on Roger I like to watch on Meidas Touch. I recommend
Hey, go ahead.
Meidas Touch Network.
Oh,
And
indeed.
they have these little clips. Donnie says this, and Donnie says that. Donnie says the real unemployment is 9%, or whatever the fuck.
Whatever he pulled out of his ass.
That's the kind of thing that, but the media doesn't call him out. They take great efforts and great pains to normalize Donald Trump. It's not normal. Guy is a fucking weirdo. But he's a weirdo that a lot of people think is the one who needs to be president. I don't understand it.
I don't understand that shit at all.
He's a rapist. He's a con artist. He's a bankrupted billionaire. His net worth is plummeted. He's in hock up to his eyeballs.
Can't open his mouth without sticking his foot in it.
He's got
You know, Mitch, though, it's not his intelligence that they want. He is just a puppet.
plus with interest to various people that he's going to have to pay off. I believe he's going to jail. I believe Mershon intends on putting him in jail. And that's why it has been moved till after the election.
After the election, let him lose and then put his ass in jail.
Well,
I'm hoping
think
that's the
about
way
how
it goes.
helpful that will be in the fake stop, the inevitable fake stop the steal. And then you had Trump running his fucking mouth so out of it that he doesn't realize it. Several times today, this week, he admitted that he knew he lost. That's not going to go over too well in his federal trial coming up.
He's already set the stage to declare that the election was rigged. It was, where was I? I was reading somewhere, some story here. I'm thinking.
I'm worried about it, but I ain't that worried about it because now Joe Biden has the power to do whatever he has to do to bottle Donald Trump up. I'm not saying he ought to, but he could.
He has the authority to.
I'm not saying he ought to, but he could. Send a detachment of Marines into the Supreme Court and drag out the problematic Supreme Court justices and put them in Guantanamo. He could do it.
He can do it because, he's the president. That's what that's what the Supreme Court says.
He has amassed a team of lawyers, constitutional lawyers and election lawyers, headed up by Mark Elias, someone who I really admire, fighting hard against the Donald Trumps and the Giulianis and what's that kooky?
The scumbags.
Arizona.
Sum it up.
All Carrie, what's her name? Carrie Lake.
Carrie Lake.
All these people, they are not going to have a leg to stand on, John. There's no precedent.
I'm counting on that.
Any fraudulent voting. They're fighting against two things which really doesn't happen. Number one, Trump is now calling for a law. He wants a law so that undocumented aliens can't vote.
Well, of course, grab your torches. Let's go. The undocumented. So we have an outbreak of that, Mitch? No, we don't.
We don't.
No.
It's not
But
a
it sure
problem.
gets
But it sure
gets
makes
them.
news, right?
Oh
Makes
yeah,
the
it gets in the news, and it gets that maggot guy out there. Yeah, that's why we need to do that. We need to. That's
Yeah, they start
again.
frothing at the mouth.
That's exactly what it is, and that's what they want.
I couldn't bring myself under any condition to vote for someone who says that there's such a thing as black jobs.
There have been some pretty good songs out there, though, when it comes
Open
to...
mouth, insert foot, proceed to stuff head up ass. That's what Donnie
Because
does.
the whole idea of having Kamala Harris, a strong black woman running for the presidency of the United States, is to show us that shouldn't and doesn't matter.
Right on.
We need to find the best people, but we need to not restrict ourselves to the people that we think ought to have the job in the first place.
You're already biased on that point.
DEI. That's what DEI is.
You're already biased at that point. Hey, let me
Correct.
catch up real quick. Gregory Brown came in with a $20 donation and said it's because guns in MAGA make them such big scary men. That's what it is. It's bravado. I got one. I'll bust your ass. Anyway, Logic Bees came in with a $1 donation. Hold on. Logic Bees came back with another $1 donation. Just wait. And Bravo Chick came in with $10 and said, funny how they did this. turned into it's a fact of life. Get over it. Yeah, and we ain't never going to get over it. We can't accept it as a fact. And Logic Bees came in with another $50 donation. Logic Bees, your teeth, baby. Thank you very much. And Marianne Stage came in with a $20 donation. And Sick Chick 2071 came in with a $2 donation and said, lots of love for me, to you too, and Marcia John. Thank you very much, Sick Chick. And Jake Sillers came in with $20 and said, after the debate, the MAGA party is going to have Kamala deemed as a white supremacist bigot and a baby killer. They are so ignorant, those Trumpers, as you already know. It's not hard to figure that one out, Jake. They are stupid. Oh, Lord, I think another was stuck up here. Talking about Washington, D.C., Kay Allen just came in with a $10 donation and said, Trump is a coward. Just let Kamala's prosecutorial fangs get a solid grip on Donnie's throat, and this election will be all over. I want to see her suck him dry. Every drop of it come out of him. Kay, thank you very much. I love seeing you in there, baby. There's just a certain picture that pops in my mind every time she knows what it is. But
I do have one concern though. I really hope Kamala doesn't get sick breathing the same air as 45.
I'm sure they're gonna have a
He's going to be
fumigation
way
area.
on the side of the stage.
Somebody coming in spraying alcohol every few minutes. Keep it sanitized in there or something.
Right on.
I would love for it to proceed in such a way where Kamala Harris just unloads on Trump, but I also think it's more important that the message gets out that she is a sane woman who has devoted her life to serving this country. And although I don't agree, once again, with everything that she necessarily believes, I think she's got what it takes. I think she just has to not succumb to Trump's, he's basically an agent of chaos. We've discussed this.
She's
That's
a
all
straight
he is.
shooter though, that's the thing. She answers her questions and she doesn't take any BS.
Well, we shall see. I would like to see. They're banking on her asking him questions the very forceful way that she did. I don't know if you remember how she questioned a certain Supreme Court justice.
Yep, I remember.
Mm-hmm.
But I can tell you, it's been on their mind because they've all mentioned it to one degree or another about how rude she was to the fake justice and how rude she was to Mike Pence. I remember watching that. Pence could not shut his fucking mouth for the whole thing. He just ran his mouth. And she basically told him, look, you got to shut up. You got to be quiet. So everybody misremembers that as being Trump. But it was Mike Pence. Mike Pence would just not shut the fuck up. Would not let her talk. And she just jumped all up in his face.
What's that?
The other thing I know is that Trump is getting coached by, he's getting coached by someone.
Tulsi Gabbard.
That's who it was.
Yeah, that's who it was. That's
Great
exactly who it
example
was.
of a debate. Yeah, great debate coach right there. Give me a break.
Yeah, okay.
Trump, only the
Earlier
best.
this summer, Mitch, that you were thinking that we're going to win by, I think you said by 10 or 20 million or something.
Well, I can tell you two interesting facts everybody on this show should know, everybody in this family. Number one, Donald Trump is now spending more money than he's bringing in.
Oh yeah.
Dare you say?
That doesn't surprise me
Dare
one
you
bit.
say? Have you seen the amount of money Kamala Harris has brought in?
I'm getting to that, but I'm saying
Okay, go ahead.
Trump
I'm
has
sorry.
already had to redirect $50 million of cash, of which Trump can't possibly have that much. $50 million of cash, which of course is about a tenth of what he owes for his judgment.
Right.
And at the same time, Kamala's doing so well. They've got about 250% more in the month of August than the Trump campaign. actually so much money coming in to the Harris campaign that they've reallocated $90 million to downline voters.
There you
In
go.
the GOP, there's no
They ain't
money
doing
to
that.
go to the downline voters.
They ain't doing that. Yeah. Johnny's
Right
keeping all
now,
the money.
And last thing, I'll let you guys jump back in here, but I just want to say, right now today, John Fetterman was on CNN this morning, and they
Was he?
flashed up the latest poll results in Pennsylvania that show 47% for Harris, 47% for Trump in Pennsylvania. Now, I can tell you, I didn't go to Harvard, and I don't have a Nobel Prize or nothing, but 47 plus 47 does not add up to 100. So there's still plenty
If
of
it did,
people
I'd get a
out
higher
there,
score than that.
and I mean plenty of people out there who haven't made up their mind for whatever fucking reason, still haven't made up their mind, and I'm hoping that this debate will put those people and start sending them over the edge to the Harris. I can tell you that the people, the Republicans that are coming out for Harris, it's going to be
Indeed.
very, very tough for Trump to pull this shit out the butt.
Darth Vader. Mitch, Darth Vader said he's going to vote for Kamala Harris. Dick Cheney. Darth Vader himself
Yep.
is going to vote for Kamala Harris. And you
That's
know.
going to be a little discouraging to our GOP friends.
Yes, it should send a message.
And I think it's not ended. I think there's going to continue to be, but they got Alan Dershowitz.
Alan who? Never
Alan,
heard of
that
him.
spineless
heard of him.
jellyfish Dershowitz.
Never heard of him.
So be that. All right, everybody. Make
Mitch,
sure hit
thank
that
you for
like
coming
button.
in, brother. Julie, I love you. Thank you for being here, baby.
Talk to you.
Good
All right,
night,
guys.
baby.
Take care.
Mitch,
Peace
take
out.
care of
Look
yourself.
good.
Thank you very much, brother, for being in here. There you go. Let me send out another thank you to Logic Beats. Who else would I be thanking? Came in with a $1 donation, and Jimbo came in with a $5 donation and said Kamala has more government experience than JFK and Reagan had combined. And indeed she does. And Logic Bees came back in with $2 and said, we donated to Kamala, but don't forget about Dot. Oh, thank you very much, darling. And hey, Gringo, hey, subscribe to our channel. So hey, welcome aboard, Gringo. Glad to have you in the family, baby. Lord, how this thing has grown. I can't, I sit. Let's just sum it up this way. Mushy shit. I love this Blue Dot family. Thank you a lot for all. I can't believe just where we've gone with this. Or hey, tire biter. What the hell is going on up?
Yes, sir.
At the ranch? What's going on up at the ranch?
What's
5
the big
miles
news?
outside of town at the end of the road.
I'm halfway between you and Dallas, and so Dallas, there's this guy, Energy Transfer Company. You ever heard of him? This
No.
guy's named Kelsey Warren. Okay,
Nope, I
and
can't say I have.
is trying to sue and put Greenpeace America out of business.
Oh, what a fine
Because
thing.
they got in the way. They got
Oh, yeah.
They got
Get
in the way of
business,
that
baby.
Dakota pipeline. Remember the Dakota Access pipeline up there, and the Indians, and it got kind of ugly there for a while, but they shut it down, and Greenpeace did. So now he's going after Greenpeace, and he gave Trump like 5 million, 6 million. Something like donated that to Trump, and he's got the judges up here in the Fifth Circuit or crazy here.
Right.
The Fifth Circuit, I think it is. But he's got the right judges to do this with, and man, this is not looking good for Greenpeace, and I kind of support their movement, and
Yeah.
it's something to keep an eye on. Anyway, John, in your spare time, because I know you got
Oh, yeah.
tons of it right
I'm just
now.
loaded with it, buddy.
But
coming out of the wazoo.
I know, but I know we love you, though, brother. I want you
I
to
love you
know it.
back. You know that.
And
How's the lovely Nan, by the way?
anyway, but yeah, watch. Oh, Nan's just wonderful. She's so busy you can't hardly slow her down. That girl.
We should all have such energy.
If she ain't got, yeah, she's 69 years old and just runs like crazy. It's unbelievable. I just sit back and watch because I can't keep up with her. Anyway,
This is going to be the year of the woman,
we're
baby.
fixing to do a little camping. And,
Oh, are you?
Get
Gonna
the
take the camper out for a while?
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna do like 4 days. It's gonna be like 2 days down in Blanco and 2 days up in Inks.
There you go. Be a
And
nice little run.
then her daughter and her daughter's husband, they're going to Talladega for the race, and they're gonna take the camper.
Nice.
So
Outstanding.
I just had all the wheel bearings and brakes checked and the lights. If they're gonna drag that thing all the way to Alabama, I wanted to make sure the wheel bearings were good.
Gave up on mine a long time ago, buddy. I think it died out in my
But
garden.
they're going to see the
Best thing
race,
I can do
man.
for that thing is dig a hole.
Cool.
Hey, let me catch up.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, it's dead. It's dead. Let me thank Logic Bees, who came in with a $2 donation, said, Dad, sing us a song. Well, we know who we're sending that out to every day. Don't even have to say, well, there's two now. Donnie and JD. Shut your freaking mouth. What's this thing with women with no kids? He keeps shoving his foot in his mouth. I swear. Oh, wait, but where was I? And let me. Oh, yeah, I was right here. Wesley Wiseman came in with a $5 donation and said, I don't see a woman or race when Kamala is speaking. I see a president of the United States. I do too. I see
Right
Madam
on.
President. There you go. And Kay Allen, you doll, came back with another $10, said, I'd never forget Blue Dot. Neither will I, Kay. Neither will I. It's stuck in my memory forever. Logic Bees came back in with another $2 and come up with a Blue Dot rap song for Kamala. Woo! Somebody start working on that because I can't.
Hey, John,
Yes, dear.
can you scroll back a little farther? I think you missed Veggie Owl Girl.
Who?
Veggie Owl Girl.
Reggie Allen?
She had a comment way up there, and I can't scroll that far. I think you missed it.
Oh, I found it. Wow. That was 20 minutes ago. Oh, shit. Are you shit? Yes, it was. And Veggie Owl Girl came in with a $5 donation, said, I was in armor at Fort Riley. Do you have any idea how tightly our weapons of war are kept? I hope very. Yeah, that's inside the base, baby. Outside the base, we can toss them out like freaking candy.
Right?
Yes,
Just skip in the
it
street.
is. I'm sorry, Veggie Gal. I don't know how I got that, how I missed that.
I don't
Oh,
either.
wait a minute. Okay, I did. This is how. Because if I don't click these.
Well, you were caught up to that point, and then there's another one coming up.
Okay, how about Carol DeBurs came in with $5, said, does anyone know if there is a waiting period for Jewish space lasers? I want one for protection. It's coming, baby. Somebody's out there working on it, I'm sure. I'm sure somebody's working on it. Shit. Yeah, that's, it's a sad statement of our society. The story out of Georgia and the others that we've seen come through our brought to you live on TV.
John,
Yes.
you may want to get that gong ready. I have
got
some
it.
news here for you.
Uh-oh.
I was just looking this up
This just in.
because I'm curious. I was just kind of curious what was going on. Is that Kamala Harris political operation raised never mind, $361 million in August. Ever since then, it's probably been growing. That's amazing win.
361 is what you said?
million.
361 million, right?
Yep.
That's up from just the last time I heard it was 350 something million. So yeah,
it's been growing big time.
Hey, but don't Donnie came up with I think 5 million.
Oh.
And you're right. She is using it. She is using it right. She's sending it down ballot. She knows what this race is about. Donnie, every time Donnie takes in, it's all about Donnie. He's not trying to support the Republican Party. They're trying to kiss his ass. They're not asking him for money. He's not going to give them any. The Democratic Party is concerned about the down ballot races because we know what drives this country. We not only need the presidency, we need the House. We need to retain the Senate. This is our big push this year, and I think we can get it done. I think the motivation is going to be out there. I think we're going to see a turnout like we haven't seen before. I'm thinking it's going to be the year of the woman, Betty. I really do.
I agree with that, John. I agree with that 110%.
I'm walking around the house. And here I am, woman, hear me. I keep singing that going down the hallway. I am woman, hear me roar. I think she's going to bring out not only the woman vote, but those of us, and I'm included, that think we're way overdue for a Madam President. It's about the best person for the job here. And it's obvious between Kamala Harris and Donnie the Dick who that person is. I don't know what logic these people use for supporting his ass. I don't. The only thing I can think of is they're going to get something out of it, some monetary value. That's what the politicians think. I don't know what Bubba down on the road thinks. The only thing he's in it for is, oh, it's fucking true. Fuck you. Anyway, Logic Bees came in with another $1 donation, and Meidas Aurora came in with $5 and said, hey, much love, sane people, vote.gov. There you go. Go check your shit out. Make sure you're registered. Make sure we're coming down to the wire. We're less than 2 months out. You know, how many days? 51 days? 50? I don't know how many days it is now. Shit.
I lost 58 almost.
We are getting down to the wire. And we need everybody to make sure, because I think this is going to be a turnout like this country hasn't seen in decades.
Oh,
yeah. And I'm thinking it's going to be the year of the woman, baby. This is it. You know, in numbers too big to ignore. That's what we need. What he's going to do. He's getting ready for litigate everything. That's Donnie's world. That's how he lives. That's everything in his life. He litigates everything. So he's going to do that with this.
Oh, and speaking of litigate,
yes,
they switched that sentencing till November 24th, which I think was actually a good move.
Why so?
Mainly, well, because then we can't infer that it was a political whatever the sentencing
That's
is.
Right. Yeah, he can't use that this is a political vendetta
like
they're trying to.
For his ads.
That's true.
Yep.
That's true.
The magazine need any more, convincing that this is
Right.
political. That's the whole base of the argument.
But they always glom on to the 5-second something and hang on to that for a while. And don't even give him any. Don't give him a single thing. Just
Nope.
He can wait. We can wait. It's all good.
It's all good.
Just keep reminding folks that, it's been 28 years, damn near 30 years, since the Republican Party won the popular vote.
Yep.
They're
And they
not
know
the
that.
majority.
They
even
know that.
49%. They're not even 49% anymore. It's just the people that scream the loudest. Hey, the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
That gets the
Okay,
grease.
that's fine, but 30 years is the squeaky wheel. We got to change the wheel.
Yep. Minority bullies in the playground.
Yep. And the whole playbook, shooting the boys back in the day, this, but I think, I know Mitch said something earlier this summer. I think he was saying that we're going to win by 10 million. And I've been putting that bet out there. And the more I look at the numbers here this past weekend, it's going to be closer to 20-25. And we need that. We need 25 to 30 to get that wave. The overwhelming
I want it to be an overwhelming number. And I do. I think that's exactly what's going to happen. We are going to see a turnout like we've never seen before. Not only, his attack on her identity. You don't think that motivates the black vote, the Latin vote? You know,
Oh, yeah.
the handwriting. I don't know, baby. Of course, I don't want to. I don't want to get because there is still a way for him to win. You have to remember that there is still a way for him to win. The electoral college isn't a guarantee that the popular vote is going to be the winner.
That's right. That's right.
And that's how come we have to work every area we can, every friend you have, every cousin. Make contact, baby. Say, hey, it's a long time no see. Let me see. Kirk? I'm sorry,
Hey, John.
brother. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing all right.
Well, welcome to the room.
I wanted to throw a little positivity in the air, and I agree
We
with
need that.
Uncle Fatty, man. And I've been saying I've kind of had the same thing in my head for a while, man. I used to think 15 million, but I'm going to say 20 plus. Um, Look at what's happening and I really agree with this guy named David Feldman, who does a really good job on YouTube as well. What he's noticed is Trump has completely lost his ground game. And this is obviously a money thing as well, but look at Florida and Texas are turning purple.
Yes,
Are you
yes.
kidding me?
They
I think Kamala is within 5 points here in Texas,
So think about this for a second, okay?
and then Florida.
Yeah. And I'm not going to say that he's going to come out. I hope he does, but if George W. Bush comes out with an endorsement, we already know that 100-year-old Carter is going to vote for Kamala. That means that we'll have every fucking sitting president back to Carter, except for Reagan, who's dead, of course.
Yeah.
That's going to vote for Kamala. Think
If
about
he-
that.
And
That's
what
pretty
makes me
well-
feel if he could crawl out of the grave, he would vote for Kamala.
I think
How
he
many-
would.
Yeah, how many former presidents showed up to the RNC, ACA? And answer me that. How many? None.
Let me see. Oh, I was counting and you messed me up. See that?
They have the heavyweight champion.
Nada, baby.
Not a damn one of them showed up. And it did. It tickled me a little bit to see the endorsement of not only Liz Cheney, which I respect for her stand against Trump, standing up for her conservative party is what she's doing, and her father doing the same thing. That speaks volumes, and it should
Vader.
speak to a whole lot of
Her
Here's my
father
conservatives.
is supporting her. You know that with that, too.
What's
He's
that?
supporting his daughter. He is supporting his daughter with that endorsement.
Yes, yes, he is. Yes, he is. Thank you.
See, here's my take: is that I'm not a fan of either one of them, but here's the big but: is that I will give them a few bonus points that they are standing up for what's right, and they're trying to do everything in their damn power to keep Lump out of office. I think that's
As they
pretty fucking
should.
cool.
Yeah, a lot of the conservative it isn't just because they have faith in Kamala. It's because they see the danger in Trump.
Yeah.
It's a referendum. It's a referendum,
It is.
not a. I mean,
What
it's
is
an
it?
election, but it's also a referendum on Trumpism.
Yeah, most of the folks I know are voting specifically as a no vote against Trump. And even the maggots that I know that have said they're not going to just vote at all for president. They're going to vote for everything else on the ballot, just not for president. Chances are they're not even going to show up to the polls.
Well,
That's their problem.
Yeah, that's
It
right.
is. And it's, it benefits our side as far as it goes. But like I said, the Electoral College is a finicky bitch. And even the swing states are looking, 50-50 right now. And if not, they're leaning towards the blue side. And that's exactly what we need is, 4 or 5 of the swing states. And unfortunately,
a
Idaho
prime
will be
example.
red state.
A prime example of this, the purple, is here in Texas. Ted Cruz is, you know, Ted. We all know Ted. Colin Allred is running neck and neck with him right now. And if we could get Ted Cruz
not only for Texas, but for the whole damn country.
Yeah, and if any of y'all got extra nickel, Colin Allred is running against Ted Cruz. And boy, wouldn't it be a lovely thing to get Ted Cruz's ass out
I
of
just
Washington.
want that man out of course, I'm up here to do because Has 26 Jr. came in with a $10 donation, and where's my wiper? And said, sending love to the whole Blue Dot family. Sending that love right back. Kay Allen came back with another $10, said, registered for sure. We mail in our ballots, and we'll have a Democratic governor in Virginia, too. I love it. It's going to spread. I think it's going to, that blue is going to spread all over. It's going to bleed all over the place. Jimbo came in with a $5 donation and said, beer and weed fund. I like the way you think. Wait a minute. Kay Allen came back with another $10, said, did you see Dick Cheney this past week? Yes, I did. Darth Vader said he did. Yes, I did. I just got all tickled about that. Spunky 1991 came in with $2, said, George Bush said he's not endorsing anyone. Well, there's a man with no balls. That's what he's saying. He ain't going to endorse anyone. Well, then shut up, Sal.
Yeah, but
Nobody wants
still,
to hear about your ass. You're too chicken
we
shit
know
to
he's
stand
really
up
not.
against him. Country over party, Bubby. That's what I'm saying. Logic Bees came in with another $1. Thank you very much. And Jim Thompson came in with $2. Thank you very much. And Shaking Me Bones came back with another nice donation and said, abort Rick Scott. Did anybody see his speech yesterday before 200 plus college students yesterday? He was talking how Democrats crushed the skulls of unwanted babies after birth or at the time of birth. He said that. These are sick folks. Vote blue and abort them all. Yes, I heard something about this that he made a comment that Democrats, abortion even after birth. They're sick.
And you sit them in a corner and let them starve. That was the other part of it.
What the
That's fucking horrible.
Logical people listen to that.
They do. Unfortunately, they do.
Sadly,
they believe
they do.
It's all over Snap. It's all over the Telegram. Telegram especially is right wing RT. How about the assholes that got busted this week, John?
Yeah. What about those assholes that were?
Which assholes that got busted?
Russian thing?
Tim
Oh,
Pool
you mean
and
the right wing nut job society over there on
podcasters
different
that were
platforms?
moving in, a couple hundred thousand a month.
Yeah.
It's a little here, a little there. Just keep their
Didn't know
state.
that
Yeah.
was Russian.
For helping
Didn't
their
know that was illegal,
comrades.
right?
Yeah.
Well, nowadays, that's
Oh, but they claim they're victims because
Victims,
they
are
didn't
they?
know where the money was coming from. Because, you get like $100,000 a month all of a sudden. You don't ask where's that money coming from.
And you're going to repeat whatever opinion that person just gave you.
Well, look at that.
You're not.
Understand your position
That's
now
the
that
power,
you got
baby. That's the power.
$100,000.
Yeah, that's been a good shock through the whole kind of manosphere, the ortho bros, the red pillars. It definitely made some good ripples, and I think that's going to be felt. That's going to be it's going to be a thing that at least guys in their 20s and 30s are
And they
thinking about.
call Democrats communists, right? And then they're taking that money.
That's
They
the
can't
only
even
thing they
define.
got.
They can't define
No.
Marxism. They can't define socialism. They can't define communism. They can't define democratic republic. And
They
that's
can
their own
define
fucking-
capitalism, though, can't they?
Well,
I think they could.
they try to. But
Kinda, but not the right way.
No, not the right way. But
nothing in capitalism says we need monopolies that can buy off politicians and Citizens United saying that people are corporations and corporations are people. And I'll bring this point up and they'll agree that we need to get rid of Citizens United. That's a huge contentious thing.
It is a very huge one that's overlooked by a lot of people. That gives Citizens United just basically made grifting legal.
Straight up.
Straight up, yeah. You vote the way we want you to vote, or
Blew
we
a
won't give
hole
you this
in the
money, and that's
dam
all
and
there
the
is.
money came.
You know,
Yes.
and they keep wanting to talk about how
And-
much Nancy Pelosi is worth. You know, her net worth. Her net worth has gone up 2% since she's been in office. Okay, and we got guys like Jim Jordan that are worth $200 million.
Jack it off, Jordan. That's
Okay, we got guys that are increasing their net worth by like 50 to 60% legally on the books, right?
on the books. baby.
Declared money as
They're
consultants.
they're just
for
lucky in
services
investments,
that
you
they
know.
never get. It's all cookbooks. It's all shell game bullshit that Donnie's done his whole life. The man's broke. He's never had cash.
How are we
The
going to
man
get
never
out of
did.
this? It's going to take generations for us to be able to cleanse our house.
Yeah, man.
Really, it will. You know, because of the power of money in our politics. You know,
And the power of hatred.
America is unique not only in mass shootings. We're the only fucking country in the world where the election season starts right after we swear the last guy in. Well, here comes election season, and here we go. That's what it's turned into. No other nation in the world does this, except us. That it's a continual, every day for years and years. It's political season, baby, and that's what drives the news.
Yeah.
We just, gotta get our shit together and
Media companies
concentrate
only
on
have
what's
but
going to
one
make the
goal.
future better for everybody. If we live
That's to
through what,
make money for the upper 1%, right?
yeah, that's because Lord knows they need it, right? Starve without it. Hey, let me thank Logic Bees. Who else but came in with a $5 donation and said, "Let's do a 24-hour stream, please." Oh Lord, I kind of wish we could sometimes, but I
I'm down.
wouldn't be able to last it, baby. We'll
I'm
wait for the right
restreaming
moment for that. Maybe that moment's coming up. Meidas Dragons Aurora came in with a $2 donation and said, "Hey, let's abort Trump. I'm a Democrat." Yeah. It's not, as a matter of fact, you've got a damn great point. It is not
Right
too
on.
late to abort his ass. Somebody get a hammer. Come here. Abort your ass. Logic Bees came back with another $2 and said, "We got to get this page to 1 million subs." I'm all for it, baby. Let's keep going. And the numbers, our family is growing. And it makes me smile every time I go to check our numbers, check our Facebook or our YouTube channel. Yeah, the numbers are going up. That means it just means that more and more people are not only finding me absolutely handsome devil. I always say it. If you're listening to this show, you're concerned about your nation. You're concerned about the political environment of our country. You want to make things better. If you're here, you have that hope for the future. That's what I have. That's what I'm trying to do is give us. We have to fight for it, though. Ain't nothing given to us. Every inch of what we have right now was given to us by those that fought before us. Those that came before us gave us what we have now, and we're doing pretty damn good. But we're not there yet. I don't think we ever will be. The mission keeps progressing and getting more dire in certain areas. Our environment being one of them. Shit, if we don't have a freaking earth to live on, what the hell's the point? There's work to be done, and it's going to be going on forever. So we can never stop. This is a continual fight for the freedoms of this country and for those that we leave behind.
And it's worth doing.
It's worth doing. It's a source of pride. You can
And
lift
the
your
cool
head up.
part is I get to meet
What?
people like Joe.
Yeah.
That's
right.
And
There you go.
look at the family. Look around. Isn't it amazing and cool and fun?
I think so.
It's
I think
really
so.
fun, man. It's been a fun ride.
We are
It's not without
a large family and a proud family. And when
not
one of
without
us hurts, we all
difficulty,
hurt.
but it's been fun.
And on that note, I want to encourage everybody, if you can, drop a letter, drop a card, a get well card to Donna Bonacosi. She is in the hospital in Boston. She has been in a coma for a little while. Fred, her husband, is just, I don't know how he's surviving every day. These tragedies happen within our family constantly. And it hurts all of us when one of us is hurt.
And Donna
That's the
was
way a
there
family
from the
is.
get-go, too.
From the get-go, baby. And so, yeah, if you've got a few minutes and stamp, send on some love to her. They're going to read every card, every letter that she gets, they are going to read to her. And they're hoping to see her eyes open and get some reaction. So, yeah, if you can do that, do that. That'd be a good thing. Make us all feel a little bit better.
Amen.
Amen, brother. That's what we
Amen.
do. Try to make things better. So,
Put a
I add
smile
one
on
more
that
name to
face,
the
right?
list.
Put
Who's
a
that?
smile on that face and give that shit away, brother.
that's right. Put a smile on your face and give that shit away every damn day.
Every day. As many times as possible.
I was going to say one more name we should add to the list for
Who's that?
anybody that has a few dollars for support. We need to watch the Senate races as well. And John Tester in Montana, if he gets a win, that could determine Central Harris. So if
Yes.
anybody's got a few dollars, keep John Tester in mind. Now I know there is an independent that also could take some pressure off of Tester. That's like I think in Kansas or Oklahoma. But John Tester, if anybody has a few bucks,
I don't
give
have
him
a
some
butt
love.
for him. Give him some. Yes, this is because we do not hold the Senate by much. 2 votes, is it? I think. So, and then we have the fight for the House. But if we don't take the Senate, if we lose the Senate to the Republicans, hold on to your britches, baby. Because even with Harris in office, a Republican Senate would deal shit to her. Because that's what their game plan is. If they can't have it all, they're going to shit on everything.
Right.
So
And
that
if
is.
all of us show up, we can take the blue wave and take the whole thing.
I want that blue wave
And
to
wouldn't
wash
that
this
be
country.
a beautiful day?
I want to see it,
We
baby.
could get the greater majority of it. That would be really, really nice.
If we had the House and the Senate, and Kamala Harris, hopefully she would not squander the opportunity.
I think there's a whole lot of votes that they're missing. That little story I told y'all about the other day that I saw in the news about Omaha, Nebraska, and the blue dot signs that are showing up, just a white sign with a blue dot. That's showing up there.
Oh,
They miscount all of the people that live in rural America who are blue dots, baby. And you back up a little bit and you start seeing, oh, wait a minute, that whole damn picture's blue. Just got to look at the big picture, baby. And it's changing
That's
that
right.
way. Those dots are changing the landscape.
And I'm
just-
thinking I'm doing the same thing, putting a
Yeah.
little white sign with a blue dot in my front yard. I already got one in my Jeep.
Yeah, I'm going to put that one on my truck. Be the first one I ever put. That's it.
There
I don't
you
put.
go.
I try not because they're going to hit my truck with rocks. Anyway, Logic Bees came back with another $1. Of course she did. And Kay Allen came back with another $10 and said, "See the book, Corporations Are Not People by Clements." I have not seen that one. I'm going to look that up because you recommended it.
Put a link on the
I'm
Discord
hot.
for you. That's a
Would
good
you?
one.
Thank you. I would appreciate that. Corporations are not people, and they're not. I don't give a shit what the right wing. It's just another way to fleece the country, to make grifting legal. That's what that is. To make it okay for corporations to buy the politicians they want. It's not corporations that run this world. It's corporations that bleed us dry.
Oh, no,
But
they're
you know,
wrong.
John, a lot of it too is the whole attitude of it, because it's like if corporations are people, and corporations are only in there to make money. What does that say about their idea about people?
Yeah. What does it say?
Yeah.
As long as they work for the company, shut your mouth and go to work. That's what that is. We'll
They're
decide
there to
what's
make
best for
money,
you.
That's the only reason we got this.
And that kind of atmosphere
Yeah.
is best for the company. It's not good for the
Yeah,
worker.
yeah,
Mm-mm-mm.
expendable. The people are expendable.
Well, there's one born every other minute. What the hell? Got lots of them.
Yeah.
That's the way they think. Hey, Logic Bees came in with another $2. Said, "Blue wave, let's go." It is going to rise, I think, to the ceiling, baby. I do. I think I am. The closer we get to this now, we're going to be live Tuesday. Tuesday's the debate.
Of the debate.
What time?
I don't know how I'm
The
going to play
debate,
that.
the debate starts at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah.
That's 8 p.m. Central.
So that's about the time we wrap up.
We're usually done by then.
Yeah.
Wow. We should do it after the debate.
That's kind of late though on a
Yeah, that
Tuesday.
will be real late for a lot of people.
The debate's
Oh,
gonna
well.
But
be 90 minutes.
I was thinking that maybe during the debate, because I can watch the debate and be on Discord at the same time.
Oh.
We could go
More
into
than
the
likely, I
Discord.
will be live on YouTube and simul broadcasting to Twitch,
No.
Rumble,
Outstanding.
and whatever. And then, of course, we've got who's the guy? Progressive Matters, the Angry Ginger. He's a
Progressive
friend of the
Matters.
show here.
I know that one.
Yeah.
I've heard that one.
He'll be live, I'm sure, doing something at least. The hard part with that is you got to do the 5 or 10 minute delay, so you're not getting copyright on the simulcast of major corporations broadcast. And then you got
Is
to
that
still
right?
stop every couple of minutes and do your
Yeah.
commentary. It's nice to have a little bit of break too. But man,
I would
think,
like to explore the way to do more to where I could show clips and stuff
Yeah.
like that on the show so we could comment about it and have discussion about it.
for
That's
sure
what I
there's-
want to do. There are restrictions to it. There are, I don't know
You need
exactly
better
what that,
internet connection too, John.
what's
Yeah.
that?
You need a better internet connection to do some of that
I
too.
would need better internet connection for sure, for one thing. So it's not something I could, yeah. It's something I would like to do. But right now, I'm other priorities right now, but it is something in our mind that to make the show. a
But
little
what
more
we could do
interactive.
is do the if you're feeling up to it, because we're not going to predict how you are going to be feeling on Tuesday, John. But if you're up to it after the show, maybe we can go into the blue room and we can live chat with each other during the debate.
That's what I was talking about. We could go on
Right.
Discord, go to the blue room, and go into a chat channel there, and we could all be watching the debate and being able to communicate
Yeah.
and comment back and forth.
That means I have to go to your house, John, and look and talk to your technical advisor
Want tech advisor?
and get him to fix my phone so I can get into the blue room.
We'll bring it over and he'll fix it for you.
You betcha. I'll
Bring
be
it
there.
over and he'll fix it for you. That's what
Maybe
I do.
can bring
I
some.
got one of those too, man. I got one of the sons as a technical
That's it.
advisor.
If
I'm
it wasn't
lucky
for
to have
Travis,
him.
none of this shit, I wouldn't be on
I
the air
wouldn't
right
be
now.
able to do
Nope.
nothing, man.
Nope. He gives me these buttons over here I can push. I can hit any one of these buttons over here and I'm good. Just stay away from the rest of this shit. That's what he tells me.
Well, it's with
Don't
OBS,
touch it.
and you can hit a different button and play a couple little videos and do some commentary. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, it's not hard. It's not difficult.
But it eats
That's
a
what he
lot
keeps
of
telling me.
bandwidth. Yeah, I mean, you're going to max your bandwidth out just trying to.
Yeah, I don't have enough bandwidth right now to hardly handle the show right now. There are options available, I think. But again, I live way out in the country and it involves either a satellite or
Yep.
I don't know.
We all got
The
that
company I
problem,
have,
John.
they have business class, but it's a jump in, but it might be worth money to do that, make that jump and get into it. They could offer a higher, anyway, all that other shit. We'll figure it out in time. Anyway, I guess it's getting time to shut her down for the evening. I want to thank everybody who came in. Mitch Goldstein, thank you very much for coming in. We appreciate it. Celie Bebo just came in with another $2 donation, said, a watch party. That's what we're talking about. We're all going to be watching it, and everybody's going to have 2 cents to chime in there. They are. So maybe Discord will be a good place to do. We'll figure it out. We'll let everybody know Tuesday when we go on our live show. Anyway, let me see here. Kirk, thank you. I'm just going to go right down the line. Kirk, appreciate you coming in, brother. Always bring something to the table. I appreciate that.
Hey, thanks for having me in. I'm glad you caught me at the last second here early with some people in the chat. I want everybody's participation here because, in the words of Tim Waltz and Kamala Harris, let me say it 3 times. When we fight,
We win.
We win.
That's it, baby. When we fight, we win. We win.
We win.
one more time. When we fight,
We win. There you
We
go,
win.
baby. Send him out the door cranking up. Thank you, Kirk. Come back and see us, brother.
thank you.
Thanks, Kurt.
All right.
You bet.
Take
Fire
care.
up the cannons. All right. Love it. All right. Let me see here. Uh, Joe, no. Let me. Yeah, Joe. They keep moving on me. It switches when somebody leaves the room. The damn panel switch. Joe,
Yes, sir.
thank
Which
you,
Joe?
brother, for coming by. You're the only one in the room.
I'm the only one? Oh,
You're
okay.
only Joe here. So, I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you coming by the house. And yes, bring the phone by. I'll let Travis
I'll
take a
bring
look
the
at it
phone
for you.
by and we're gonna have to have a barbecue cook-off.
Oh, really? A little competition here.
Jorge,
I love
Jorge,
competitions.
you
They
need to
taste
show
good.
up.
Yeah. I'm telling you, Travis has been practicing out there. I'm loving
I
it.
can eat some barbecue.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody
Just
can eat.
twist my arm, twist it. Yeah.
We're gonna
Oh, man.
have to plan a get together.
I thought I was gonna be like the judge, man.
Oh,
Oh, get the,
Ah,
yeah. He'd be a fine
I'm
judge.
looking for the
I'd
right position.
there you go. Anyway, Joe, thank you very much. Tell Maria I give my love, and y'all take care. Come by the house. We'll fix the phone for you.
Get you.
All right, buddy. Take care. And let me see, Jorge.
Yes, sir.
Take care of yourself, brother. Thank you for
You know,
coming in.
It's a wonderful big table that we got that we all
We do.
sit around. It's
Right
a
on.
wonderful family, and I'm so proud and pleased by the whole thing.
I am too, Jorge. I am
So
too, brother.
y'all have a lovely evening. I'm gonna go ground me up something to eat.
There you go. I hope it's good. I know it will be. Take care of
night,
yourself,
y'all.
Jorge. Good night, brother. Take care. And let me say before we move on, I want to thank Logic Fees who just came in. Of course she did. With another $2 donation, said we're not going to beat you. Chain them up. We're not letting them out. We're gonna have some celebrations. I know coming forward. Go for it. Anyway, Uncle Fatty, last dude in the room, buddy. I appreciate your voice coming in here.
Keep those chins up, you guys. Take an hour a day.
Indeed.
Make sure you decompress. Fashion fatigue is real.
It is.
MAGA fatigue is real. We can't let these assholes get the better of us just because they keep piling more shit into the shit box.
That's it. You can only put so much shit in there. And it's overwhelming with shit. But we can deal with it.
Yep.
We've handled shit
Good stuff.
before. We know what to do with it. Flush it.
All right.
That's what we need to do. Uncle Fatty, take care of yourself. Come back.
It's always good to see you guys. Always good to see the Blue Dot ladies as well.
Indeed.
Take care, guys.
All
Much
right,
love.
you too, brother. And Ivy,
yes, John.
thank you, darling, for coming in. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, I love to be here. Love you, Blue Dot
And
fam.
This family is just, it's my only respite nowadays, baby.
Oh hell
This is
yeah,
where-
I
yeah.
so agree.
This is where I get my fix. Anyway, Ivy, come back and see us. We'll be here Tuesday.
Also,
Getting ready for the
wanted
big
to
fight.
say something.
What?
When we fight,
We win.
hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
All right.
All right, Ivy.
Also,
Take care.
Wanted to
Yes.
make sure you guys make sure your registration is up to date and make sure your driver's license is updated also. Big big time.
Make sure you're ready to walk through those doors.
Oh yeah.
Make sure you're ready. Ivy, love you.
All
Thanks
right.
for being here, baby.
All right. Have a good time, you guys. Later.
You too. Bye-bye. And Missy Chick.
Yes, John.
Pulled another one out of our butt, didn't we?
We did.
We did.
We did.
We
Shit.
get a lot of help, though. If it wasn't helping this family.
We do. A
We
major
do.
amount of help.
I am. Anyway,
All the lovely blue dots.
we got to.
And speaking of lovely blue dots, I've been
Yes.
reading a lot of comments on YouTube, and there's just so many wonderful comments.
They go by fast.
They do, and
Yeah.
I keep trying to grab a few, and I miss them. There was a gentleman from Australia, I do believe it was,
Really?
and he wrote a sort of poem, and I wanted to grab it, and I didn't. I didn't get a
Uh-oh.
chance to. I'm going to try and find it because it gets lost in the comments. And I will try and get that back to you, but it was really wonderfully written, and I'd like to read it at some point.
See if you can snag it. If you can.
Yeah. But I did happen to snag that Rebecca left $50 and Hudson Care left $20 and said, "Let's go, baby."
Where did they do that?
I don't remember. It was.
Oh. I
I'm one of the
apologize to
best,
everybody that if you've made a donation and I haven't called you out, I apologize tremendously for it. Uh, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
And they're still
I'm-
popping them in right now too. So.
I'm way behind on all my shit. All my shit is way behind.
And that's
Yeah,
okay. We fully
it is.
understand.
I appreciate that because yeah, yeah, I can't bury myself.
Nobody's
right
gonna hold your feet to the.
now. Because that would hurt.
Your toes
Like
if
that.
we did
Bless their toes. You know, nobody wants that. And let me thank Logic Bees who just came in with another $2, and Wesley Wiseman who just came in with $5 said it would be interesting to watch debate with Blue Dot Family. I wish we could. That's what I was talking about. I wish I had all the shit set up to where we could watch it live so we could all cuss at the same time.
Yes.
Anyway.
But in the meantime, we had some people share some shit, John.
Who shared this shit? I
Well,
love people that share
Richard-
this shit.
I know I do too. Richard
just love 'em.
Winkle in Indiana shared some shit.
Outstanding. Sharing that
Bruce
shit all over the place.
Delgado from Florida and Tim Quinn from Tennessee. Annie Sykes from North Carolina shared this shit, and so did Laura Shaw from Oklahoma, and Marilyn Hogarth from
We everywhere.
Ontario, Canada shared this shit.
From Ontario. Outstanding. This family grows only because of that. When you share this shit, this family grows more and more. So, yeah, take that lead, baby. Share this shit. We appreciate
Like,
shit.
share, and subscribe. It's just
That's
it
it.
helpful.
All them buttons right down there. You can't miss that shit. It's right there underneath my ass right now. Annie. Miss you, chick. Thank you so much, baby, for being here, for doing what you do.
You're
I
welcome.
can't say thank you enough to you.
Oh, you can. You don't have to say, you know that.
I do. Bernie,
It's
if you're
my
out there, we miss your voice, baby. Huh?
I said it's just my way of participating.
Well, we all need to do that
Yeah.
and keep
We all
doing it.
need to vote like our life depends on it too, John.
Why would you do that?
Well, because it does depend on it.
It does indeed. So make sure you're ready. Make sure you're ready. And encourage others to check theirs. Make sure it'd be a nice way to, hey, there's your registration.
Definitely.
By the way, who you voting for? You know, just
Yeah.
in casual
Happy birthday.
conversation.
Did you check your registration?
There you go. Whatever the opportunity, there you go. Snag it. Miss Chick, thank you very much. And thank you to all that came in. And going out the door, Logic Bees wants to get one more in. She came in with a $10 donation and said, we don't want to go. No, no. You make me feel so good, Logic Bees. Thank you very much for that. I wish I could stay, but I have duties tonight. So, but this family is never far from my mind. I spend an awful lot of time nowadays.
You're not far from our minds either, John.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Anyway, get out of here before all the mushy shit starts. I love you. Thank you for being here. Again, put a smile on your face, baby. Work it out of there somewhere. Everybody's going through some shit. Put a smile on your face and give that shit away because there's somebody that needs that. And you could be the one to save the day, baby. So do that. Miss Chick, I love you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, John, for being there
Thank
for all of us.
I appreciate it. Y'all have a great night. We'll be back here Tuesday for the big debate. So y'all tune in. We'll see y'all later. Bye.
Oh shit. Here we go again.
Hey.
What?
What do we say when a cute boy walks by?
Brown chicken, brown cow.
This one goes to all them Rasta brothers and sisters. It's alright. Them me calling the surface. Alright. In all these hills we the vibing, feeling irate. Uncle Fatty's chanting, Babylon can't stop. We through the struggle we rise, never weary. Jah blessing every move, we be legendary. From the deep valleys out now, right a hero, chilling on that cloudy blazing his own high. Ganja pots in hand, he never walk alone. With reggae in the hearted and never say goodbye. Me brothers, me sisters, we must as one unite. Against the system, we no back down, we burn, we fight. Them try to hold us back, we no run, we fight. We fight on, burn all night. Rasta revolution, fatty shining bright. Reggae hip-hop fights, bodies chanting through the night. From hills of night, I hold to all them bodies of life. Be repping that unity in this fight. The circle of life, from trying to stop our cutty fatty side. It's come to landing every time. Every fucking night. This one goes to all the Rasta brothers and sisters. I didn't get it there, I think I got it now. Unity, my friend, my friend. Unity, don't step in the water till you know you can't swim. There's a wall coming down between my brothers and I don't want no war going down, going down, going down tonight. Stop this war. Stop this war. Civilization, I call it as I see it. I call this bullshit, you know I still cannot believe it. Our evolution now is gone, the way of hate. A world evolved, resolved in this stupid fate. All so different, yeah, I say we're all the same. All caught, you know, in the division game. Self-destruction, fast and pending like a bullet. No one can stop it once it's fired, no one can control it. It's not a call to action. We ain't no sect, no, this ain't no fucking faction. Unity, 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 you've heard it all before. This time it's not exclusive, we wanna stop the war. Stop the war, stop the war, stop the war, stop the war, stop the war. Ain't nothing wrong with another unity song, ain't nothing.
I've also seen that Elon Musk was transforming Twitter, formerly known as Twitter, into an extreme disinformation machine where everyone sees his tweets of extreme radical disinformation. Elevates those spreading disinformation. He doesn't follow his policy of those that are extreme and dangerous should be banned, or in fact, he's doing the exact opposite. So this is a part of the environment that is shifting as a result of dangerous personalities taking over. In order
to the tune of $44 billion, which it was never worth. It's now worth less than a third of that. But unless there is a plan beyond the platform itself. And the irony is that Donald Trump was banned from Twitter for breaking the rules. Then this guy buys Twitter and doesn't just reinstate Donald Trump, but himself breaks all the rules, changes the algorithm so that his views and similar views are the ones that are more prominent, and then manages to get himself in a potential future Trump administration. I mean, yes. You know, these are the baddies from the movies.
That's right. And they're using psychological manipulation and psychological violence, frankly, in order to achieve their aims. You mentioned the Russian propaganda earlier through Telegram. It's the same concept. Russians are highly adept at this because they've been running disinformation campaigns throughout the Stalin regime, and so had Nazi Germany. It's a major part of controlling a population to accepting oppression, its own domination, and willing subordination. So we don't need Russia to be doing this, because many have caught on, as well as many can relate to it. We are having so many influential people who are disordered. And that's why it's so important to inform ourselves, not only to guard our own mental health, but also to find some remedies to this, because just like we would not want toxins spread all through the drinking water around the country, we would not wish to have this in our informational atmosphere, controlling our thoughts.
Say something 3 times, and people will hear what you're saying. You got to say it 3 times. Always 3 times. They say, sir, sir. They say to me with tears in their eyes, sir. Say it 3 times, and they'll hear you. Say it 30 times, they'll believe you. Say it 300 times, they'll fight for you. Say it 3,000 times, they'll fucking die for you. It's like swimming in a swimming pool full of shit, you know? And the maintenance guys over there just shoveling more shit into the pool, and you can't figure out which piece of shit is not a piece of shit, and somewhere in there, there's a golden nugget. But it's down at the bottom for sure, of the deep end. Back where I was growing up and whatnot, the guys would talk about psychoactive warfare, hypno-programming. Hypno-programming. Think about that.
We never get to it because people are just claiming that your view must be partisan, when this isn't about tribalism. This is about all of us staying
America.
safe in this nation and seeing Russia as the enemy. It's all been the lines have been muddied and blurred. There is almost no depth to any of the political discourse.
Yes. Well, the goal of mental pathology is to make everything relative so that there is no health versus disease, but there is only your opinion versus mine. And then eventually it's to invert what is health and disease. In other words, illness is health and health is disease. That's why we see so much rhetoric of mental illness in authoritarian regimes, the Soviet Union, for example, incarcerating in hospitals political dissidents, stating that they were mentally ill. China did that, and so did Donald Trump to a certain degree.
Yeah.
He calls everyone who's sane crazy or reverse health and disease. You can see from just how much we were worried during the Biden.
Maybe we just get something like some disinfectant, like some bleach, and we get it, into the body. Maybe some bright lights. I don't fucking agree with everybody. A lot of folks I don't agree with. But I'll fucking stand up for the rights of everybody, whether I fucking agree with them or not. Because that's America. Everybody has the right to exist. As long as you're not hurting somebody else physically. Society's going to grow with or without whatever somebody wants to block, whatever somebody wants to say can't fucking exist. It already fucking exists. You can't kill energy. You cannot stop energy. Energy can never cease to exist. The energy that is behind everything that anybody wants to shut down, any rights that people want to take away, it's there already. On both sides. Common sense gun control does not mean we outlaw semi-automatic guns. Nobody's saying that. It can't be done. It just can't be. But we got one half the fucking, well over a third of the country that's fucking psycho.
He was not able to find a way to be effective. We had that kind of exuberance and energy that comes with health is something that's actually very frightening and cannot be imitated. Pathology. That's why they resort to violence. It's a proxy for energy and productivity, whereas in fact it comes out of inertia and lack of content. Well, he finally arrived at Comrade
like
Kamala.
a big snowball of
Elon
shit
Musk is
rolling
doing his
down a
best
big
to
mountain of shit.
use
And
his
this fucking
platform
shit ball just keeps getting bigger.
to spread this image, because they will be relying on image, emotional conditioning, and not on any kind of rational argument.
And it's interesting because Kamala Harris she's the closest leader we've had to normalcy. You know, she really is a real person. We watch her cooking at home with her family, and you know, we overhear her having conversations about normal things. She laughs and she expresses healthy emotions, and her love affair with her husband is so clear and beautiful to watch. And
fucking Trump hasn't fucking laughed in public, or really ever, since he was a kid. The guy doesn't know how to laugh. He cannot laugh. Motherfucker can't laugh. He doesn't even know what funny is. And we're dogging on this lady because she laughs. I mean, how bass fucking backwards do you have to be to rationalize and justify and continue to fucking carry water for this piece of shit? Allegedly.
Break, but you can answer that when we come back. But I also want to talk about the TV debates, because
Going to be a fucking shit show. The rest of the week's going to be just bunch of fucking legacy media that cares nothing more than making money.
And he doesn't little, he will talk, might not be able to hear.
Fucking guy.
Hear him. Kamala Harris will be able to hear him, and she will react to that because she will forget in the moment that he can't be heard. It'll be a car crash, and I just wish these debates weren't happening. What are your thoughts on this? And you know, how should he be handled in these situations?
She should just let him run his fucking mouth.
Well, I have said since the
3 times this week, 3 times this last week, he admitted that he knew that he lost the election and continued on with the bullshit stories. 3 times he fucking admitted it this week.
Him makes him a candidate like no other. And we underestimate the level of manipulation he can perform, and his beguiling, charming, spellbinding qualities. In fact,
say something 3 times.
Disordered individuals are called spellbinders for a reason.
Gotta say it 3 times.
Ruth Wilner gave that term in her, I think, 1984 book, stating that these individuals have a way of hypnotizing crowds.
Hypno programming.
Because they are so tuned in, not in order to
Jesus Christ, Christian
be a great entertainer or to be able to gain popularity, but to manipulate in a way that is predatory.
Yeah.
So it's to manipulate and victimize is their goal. And so that's one of the reasons.
Say something 3 times, they'll hear you. You say it fucking 30 times, they'll believe you. Say it 300 times, they'll fight for you. And say it 3,000 times and they'll fucking die for you. Psycho programming, hypno programming. It's not that fucking hard to figure out unless
Surprised
you're
me.
the one being
Because
lured
what
in.
was organic was that the public was so demanding mental health information. That's why our book catapulted to being an unprecedented New York Times bestseller of its kind. The publisher, one of the big five, took 5 weeks to try to keep up with the demand. And we heard of all kinds of anecdotes, people driving across the state to get to the one copy. And that was reflected in the fact that within 3 months, we were the #1 topic of national conversation. And the media were inviting me constantly. What was really surprising afterward, and there seems to have been a conscious decision from all the leaders at the press, the invitations kept continuing. I kept either studio or even after filming the segment would be canceled, and just one go.
Yeah. Typical legacy media. Don't give a fuck about the story. Don't give a fuck about the truth. Just give a fuck about making money, making everything seem like it's equal, par for the course, right? This is just normal, right? This is just normal. Yeah. This shit is not normal. It's not anywhere close to fucking normal.
Then mitigator of them, and spreader of the region became such a that all the irrational behavior, the severing of families and friendships in order to support against their reason if they were to get back to that point.
And the debates are box office. We should remind people of that. And
Yes.
really, the debates should not be organized by the networks. They should be organized by Congress. They should be happening in the US Capitol. They should be in a much more, less showbiz environment where it is much more, civic in terms of its style and its responsibility. And then you allow the cameras to film it. But to have a kind of shiny floor and Saturday Night Style Dancing with the Stars studio and play on music and all this stuff, it is to have the opportunity to to say mentally ill, a future demagogue who will bring down US. Why does she feel, or her team feel, that it is appropriate to get on a stage with him? Is it because she has form as a prosecutor and her ego is like, well, I can take him down, or, I know how to handle him? Because my belief, as much as I respect and support Kamala Harris, Trump will own the debate no matter what.
Whether he owns it or not, his symptoms will spread. That is a conduit for the Trump contagion to further advance itself. And if he were to win, and even that prospect is is unthinkable. Of his, certainly not because of his policies, not because of his actual ideology. It wouldn't be because people are making a rational, informed choice. It would all be because of Trump contagion. Why is the vote even close at this point? And you are correct. The correct response, the proper and appropriate response would have been to refuse a debate because he will not have the mental capacity to engage in a debate, and to state the reality, which is that he is unfit to be president and he is unfit to hold a debate. He will co-opt it and distort it and manipulate it in ways that will be destructive and not constructive to the electoral process. But to say so is currently so far removed from where the population is. I feel that when Kamala Harris and Tim Walz came up with the word weird, the entire population reacted as if that was such a relief for someone to say it. He was abnormal. And the population, I would say, has been getting it the whole time. That's why our book, a specialized knowledge book by multiple authors, which is unknown on the New York Times bestseller list, shot up. We would have been #1 if we just had enough.
For the record, the Angry Ginger was the first to say that this was weird, and somebody stole his shtick, and I was there to witness the whole thing. So, for the record, shout out. He might not have a soul, but goddamn, he's pretty.
Surprised me very much that their intervening politically depended on our educating the public medically, and that they were depending on us. When I thought of it, it was what would be the most reasonable route. But because our media are so show business today, for whatever reason, it was a decision made not because of the type of information we were offering. It was not even because of our effectiveness, because we were very effective in the beginning, so much so that a senior respected journalist told us that pretty much we had arrived. We had achieved the goal of convincing the public that this was an important issue. And that was when we were shut out. I believe
but
not
you
because
upset the system, didn't you? You got in the way of the traditional route map that the media likes to follow and profit from.
Yeah.
And that is to do these debates, to have, everything is preset and predetermined, in the same way that when a senior person.
Yeah, fucking media, man. Normalize shit so they can have their stupid fucking debates, so we can have this tradition of all this bullshit. Their only concern, the only reason the fucking media companies exist is for money. That's all there is to it. Normalize shit so they
lay their beliefs on the line, and consequently have lost their positions, lost their district, lost their congressional seats because of it. When there are hundreds of Republicans lawmakers who have the same opinion, they know that Trump is nuts, they know he's a threat to democracy, they know that he, will literally crash and break, and yet they cannot bring themselves to step up and do the same as Liz Cheney? Why not?
Fucking Dick Cheney.
Right.
Come on,
because of the spread of
fucking Darth Vader
contagion.
himself.
It's become so prevalent and so oppressive over our society that and so powerful that organizations and political organizations, including an entire party, has decided to side with this incredibly powerful yet destructive force. And I imagine in part because they don't understand it fully. I hope it is. But regardless, they will have lost the awareness that survival of the country and its democracy is more important than winning. But they will probably not be able to see that because the pathology has already taken over their ability to reason.
And even if they could,
aren't they? They're scared of what will do to them, how he will ridicule them, how they will lose their seats because of him and lose his endorsement. So there is an element of emotional and professional blackmail involved as well.
Yes, well, it may start that way, certainly. But later on, it will follow no reason or rational calculation even. It will be, in the end, destructive.
It's already getting there.
All around.
It's rationalizations and fucking justifications. You put on a red hat, now you're emboldened to do whatever the fuck you want to do to anybody and say whatever the fuck you want to say. Be as big as a dick and fucking puff your fucking chest out and say, I'm fucking voting fucking Trump, just fucking piss everybody off. Put on a fucking red hat, it gives you the right to be the bigot that you really want to fucking be. That's all it is.
Is able to compromise and discuss in ways that are rational and peaceful instead of violent and perilous. Well, you were mentioning safeguarding democracy. Well, my goal is to safeguard our collective mental health. And I've often stated that that's the equivalent of democracy in our time in history. And that's how health manifests. That's why democracies tend to be prosperous and peaceful. And we don't see the kinds of dystopian life, violence, and the inability to make compromises or discussional manner, and also the elevation of unfit leaders. Dangerous leaders rise in weak democracies, because if democracies were strong, knowledge, intellectuals and journalists would be thriving, they would be informing the public, and we as mental health experts would not be the way that we had been. In fact, when the American Psychiatric Association first came out stating that psychiatrists shouldn't be speaking up about this, about Donald Trump, even in a national emergency, that actually reminded me of the reason for the Geneva Declaration. The Declaration of Geneva is a universal pledge that all health professionals take because of the experience of Nazism. It came out of the Nuremberg trials. And so instead of stating the Hippocratic Oath, we pledge to the Declaration of Geneva, which states that either cooperation or silence in the presence of a destructive regime is unethical and contrary to the humanitarian goals of medicine. And that's where we are right now, back to pre-Nuremberg trials, where the reason for the Declaration of Geneva was because so many medical professionals, physicians, nurses, even in a national emergency, that's the equivalent of democracy, rational calculation even. It will be in the end destructive all around. That's characteristic of mental pathology, that it no matter how adamantly one espouses it and claims one believes in it, it will lead to destruction and death. That's why pathology should be distinguished from ordinary political ideology, which is always life affirming, regardless of camp, and always able to compromise and discuss in ways that are rational and peaceful instead of violent and perilous.
Can't even have rational conversations with each other. We can't even have conversations that aren't by design, by their entire core, in argumentative fallacy. No good faith. What are we doing when we communicate? We're putting out boundaries, defining consequences. We're managing expectations. When we come to the fucking table and we've already labeled our opponent as something not worth containing anything true, not worth anything, we lose. It just becomes an argument. Conversations and debates require good faith. You can't label your opponent as evil and come in with the intention of changing things or causing mayhem and expect that to be an honorable discussion, an honorable debate. It's not. It's fucking bullshit. It's an argumentative fallacy. I would go so far as to say that our whole fucking country has been operating under an argumentative fallacy since fucking Newt Gingrich stood on the floor and said that the other side is evil.
My
and we must
goal
stop them
is to
at all
safeguard
costs.
our collective mental health. And that's why democracies tend to be prosperous and see the kinds of dystopian strife and violence if elections do not go their way, and the inability to make compromises or discuss in a rational manner, and also the elevation of unfit leaders. Dangerous leaders rise in weak democracies, because if democracies were strong, knowledge, intellectuals and journalists would be thriving, they would be informing the public, and we as mental health experts would not be violence in the way that we had.
This is a really big thing when we have counselors and therapists being told by their union, they're not a union though, by their not to talk about Trump cultism.
In fact, when the American Psychiatric Association first came out stating that psychiatrists shouldn't be speaking up about this, about Donald Trump, even in a national emergency, that actually reminded me of the reason for the Geneva Declaration. The Declaration of Geneva is a universal pledge that all health professionals take because of the experience of Nazism. It came out of the Nuremberg trials. And so instead of stating the Hippocratic Oath, we pledge to the Declaration of Geneva, which states that either cooperation or silence in the presence of a destructive regime is unethical and contrary to the humanitarian goals of medicine. And that's where we are right now, back to pre-Nuremberg trials, where the reason for the Declaration of Geneva was because so many medical professionals, physicians, nurses, colluded with.
Man, that's huge. That's freaking huge. When the American Psychiatric Association is telling counselors and mental health experts and to not address this issue. Follow the money. What incentive does Psychiatric Association? What's their end goal? Where's the money? Tell me about the American Psychiatric Association and how they get their funding.
The American Psychiatric Association, APA, is a prominent organization dedicated to the field of psychiatry, aiming to promote mental health and support psychiatric professionals. It engages in various activities, including advocacy, education, and research to improve mental health care. Regarding its funding, the APA receives financial support from multiple sources. Membership dues. A significant portion of the APA's funding comes from the dues paid by its members, which include psychiatrists and other mental health professionals. Grants and donations. The APA also receives grants and donations from various foundations, organizations, and individuals who support its mission. Pharmaceutical industry. Historically, the APA has received funding from the pharmaceutical industry.
Of course.
For instance, in 2008, it was reported that about 28% of its budget came from the drug industry, primarily through paid advertising in APA journals and funds for continuing medical education. Federal funding. The APA advocates for and secures federal funding for various mental health initiatives.
Sure.
For example, the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2023 included several APA priorities, such as investments in the behavioral health care workforce and funding for crisis services. APA Foundation. The APA Foundation, the charitable arm of the APA, also plays a crucial role in funding. It promotes mental health literacy, connects underserved communities to care, and supports various programs through grants and fellowships. If you're interested in the specifics of how these funds are allocated or any particular programs they support, feel free to ask.
How much money did Big Pharma dump into the association? Give me yearly averages for the past 5 years and a 5-year total.
The American Psychiatric Association, APA, has historically received a notable portion of its funding from the pharmaceutical industry. While exact yearly figures for the past 5 years aren't readily available, we can look at some relevant data points to estimate. In 2008, it was reported that about 28% of the APA's budget came from the pharmaceutical industry. More recently, a study found that contributors to the APA's Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, DSM-5, received over $14 million from the industry between 2016 and 2019. This suggests a continued significant financial relationship. If we assume a similar level of funding over the past 5 years, we can estimate the yearly average. For instance, if the APA received around $14 million over 3 years, 2016 to 2019, this would average about $4.67 million per year.
That's not much.
Extending this average over 5 years, the total would be approximately $23.35 million. Keep in mind that these figures are estimates based on available data, and the actual amounts could vary.
Yeah, of course.
If you need more precise information, you might consider looking at the APA's financial reports or other detailed sources. Is there anything else you'd like to know about the APA or its funding?
What would the APA's vested interest be in not having psychiatrists and mental health professionals throughout the country addressing the MAGA cult, Trump cult syndrome?
The American Psychiatric Association, APA, generally aims to maintain a neutral stance on political matters to uphold its credibility and focus on mental health issues without political bias.
Oh, sure they do.
Here are a few reasons why the APA might avoid directly addressing politically charged topics like the MAGA cult or Trump cult syndrome. Professional ethics. The APA's ethical guidelines emphasize the importance of maintaining professional boundaries and avoiding the politicization of psychiatric practice. Psychiatrists are encouraged to treat patients based on clinical needs rather than political beliefs. Stigma and bias. Labeling a political group as having a syndrome could contribute to stigma and bias, potentially alienating individuals who might otherwise seek mental health care. The APA aims to reduce stigma around mental health, not increase it. Focus on evidence-based practice. The APA prioritizes evidence-based practice and interventions. Addressing political movements as psychiatric phenomena without robust scientific evidence could undermine the association's commitment to evidence-based care.
Understandably.
Maintaining trust. The APA needs to maintain trust with a diverse population, including individuals with varying political beliefs. Taking a strong stance on politically sensitive issues could erode trust among certain groups.
Yeah.
Advocacy for mental health. The APA focuses its advocacy efforts on broad mental health issues that affect all individuals, regardless of political affiliation.
Yeah.
This includes advocating for better access to mental health care, reducing stigma, and supporting mental health research. If you have any more questions or need further information, feel free to ask.
Hippocratic oath, we state we pledge to the Declaration of Geneva.
Tell me about the Declaration of Geneva and the oath that psychiatric doctors and practitioners abide to.
The Declaration of Geneva, often referred to as the modern Hippocratic Oath, is a pledge adopted by the World Medical Association, WMA, in 1948. It outlines the ethical principles and professional duties of physicians, including psychiatric doctors and practitioners. The declaration has been revised several times, with the most recent update in 2017. Here are some key points from the Declaration of Geneva, also known as the Physician's Pledge. Service to humanity. Physicians pledge to dedicate their lives to the service of humanity. Patient well-being. The health and well-being of the patient is the first consideration. Respect for autonomy and dignity. Physicians must respect the autonomy and dignity of their patients. Confidentiality. Maintaining patient confidentiality is paramount even after the patient has died.
Yeah.
Non-discrimination. Physicians must not permit considerations of age, disease or disability, creed, ethnic origin, gender, nationality, political affiliation, race, sexual orientation, social standing, or any other factor to intervene between their duty and their patient. Professional conduct. Physicians pledge to practice their profession with conscience and dignity in accordance with good medical practice. Respect for colleagues. Physicians must give respect and gratitude to their teachers, colleagues, and students. Knowledge sharing. Physicians are encouraged to share their medical knowledge for the benefit of patients and the advancement of healthcare. This pledge serves as a guiding framework for medical professionals, ensuring they uphold the highest ethical standards in their practice. If you have any more questions or need further details, feel free to ask.
How does the Declaration of Geneva compare to the Hippocratic Oath? And why is there a difference between healthcare and mental health care taking different oaths?
The Declaration of Geneva and the Hippocratic Oath both serve as ethical guidelines for medical professionals, but they have some key differences. Declaration of Geneva. Modern context. Adopted by the World Medical Association, WMA, in 1948, the Declaration of Geneva is considered a modern version of the Hippocratic Oath. It has been revised several times, most recently in 2017. Secular language. Unlike the original Hippocratic Oath, which includes references to gods, the Declaration of Geneva is secular and does not invoke any higher power.
Yeah.
Human rights focus. The Declaration emphasizes respect for human rights and civil liberties, reflecting lessons learned from the atrocities of World War II.
Yeah.
Comprehensive ethical guidelines. It covers a wide range of ethical principles, including patient autonomy, confidentiality, and non-discrimination. Hippocratic Oath. Ancient origins. The Hippocratic Oath dates back to ancient Greece and is attributed to Hippocrates, often considered the father of medicine. Traditional language. The original oath includes references to Greek gods and has a more traditional, sometimes archaic language. Specific prohibitions. The original oath includes specific prohibitions, such as against performing abortions or euthanasia, which are not present in the Declaration of Geneva. Historical and philosophical role. It sets out the historical and philosophical roles of the medical profession, emphasizing the moral duties of physicians. Differences in oaths for healthcare and mental health care. The core ethical principles guiding both general health care and mental health care are largely the same, but there are some distinctions. Specialized ethical guidelines. Mental health care often involves additional ethical considerations, such as the management of involuntary treatment, confidentiality in the context of mental illness, and the potential for stigma. These are addressed in specialized guidelines and codes of ethics for mental health professionals. Professional organizations. Different professional organizations may have their own specific oaths or pledges. For example, the American Psychiatric Association, APA, has its own ethical guidelines tailored to the practice of psychiatry. Focus areas. While general medical oaths like the Declaration of Geneva cover broad medical ethics, mental health care oaths and guidelines may focus more on issues like patient autonomy, informed consent, and the therapeutic relationship, which are particularly pertinent in mental health settings. Overall, while the foundational ethical principles remain consistent, the specific contexts and challenges of different medical fields necessitate tailored ethical guidelines and oaths. If you have any more questions or need further details, feel free to ask.
Because of his, certainly not because of his policies, not his actual, if he can help it. I've also seen that Elon Musk was transforming Twitter, formerly known as Twitter, into an extreme disinformation machine,
Yes.
where everyone sees his tweets of extreme radical disinformation, and he elevates those spreading disinformation. He doesn't follow his policy of those that are extreme be banned, or in fact he so this is a part of the environment that is shifting as a result of dangerous personalities taking over. In this case, Twitter was one of the most prominent platforms of information exchange. He took over it in order to transmogrify it into this disinformation spreading machine.
To the tune of $44 billion, which it was never worth. It's now worth less than a third of that. But you don't spend that kind of money unless you have an agenda, unless there is a plan.
Yeah, well, where did Elon Musk get his backing and his money to purchase Twitter and turn it into X?
Elon Musk's acquisition of Twitter, which he later rebranded as X, was a complex financial maneuver involving multiple sources of funding. Personal assets. Musk contributed a significant portion of his own money, selling around $15.5 billion worth of Tesla shares in 2 waves. In total, he put up more than $27 billion in cash. Investment funds. Several investment groups and large funds also backed the deal. Notable contributors included Larry Ellison, co-founder of Oracle, who invested $1 billion, and the Qatar Investment Authority. Additionally, Prince Al Walid bin Talal of Saudi Arabia transferred his nearly 35 million shares to Musk. Bank loans. The remaining funds, approximately $13 billion, came from bank loans. Major banks like Morgan Stanley, Bank of America, and several others provided these loans, which are guaranteed by Twitter itself. This combination of personal assets, investment enabled Musk to complete the $44 billion acquisition and transform Twitter into X. Is there anything specific about this transformation that interests you?
Who are the current investors, and what type of ties would there be to Russian oligarchs?
Elon Musk's acquisition of Twitter, now X, involved several key investors. Elon Musk, he remains the largest shareholder. Kingdom Holding Company, controlled by Saudi Prince Al Walid bin Talal, who rolled over $1.89 billion in former Twitter shares. Larry Ellison, co-founder of Oracle, who invested $1 billion. Qatar Investment Authority contributed to the funding. Investment firms, including Andreessen Horowitz and the Barron Opportunity Fund. Jack Dorsey, Twitter co-founder and former CEO. Regarding ties to Russian oligarchs, there is no publicly available information indicating that any Russian oligarchs are directly involved in the investment or ownership of X. The primary investors are from the US, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar. Is there a specific aspect of these investments or investors that you're curious about?
What other media companies would those investors be involved in other than just Twitter?
Here are some notable media-related investments and involvements of the key investors in X, formerly Twitter. Elon Musk. While Musk is primarily known for his ventures in technology and space, Tesla, SpaceX, he also has interests in media through his ownership of X and his influence on social media platforms. Larry Ellison. Co-founder of Oracle, Ellison has investments in various tech and media companies. Oracle itself has significant involvement in data management and cloud services, which are crucial for media companies. Prince Al-Walid bin Talal. Through his Kingdom Holding Company, Prince Al-Walid has invested in several media companies, including News Corporation, which owns Fox News, and Time Warner, now part of Warner Media.
Imagine that.
Qatar Investment Authority. This sovereign wealth fund has stakes in various media and entertainment companies globally, including Miramax Films, and a significant share in the parent company of the New York Times.
Imagine
Andreessen
that.
Horowitz. This venture capital firm has invested in numerous media and tech startups, including BuzzFeed, Substack, and Clubhouse. Jack Dorsey. The co-founder of Twitter, Dorsey has also invested in other social media and tech ventures, including Square, now Block Incorporated, which has media-related applications through its Cash App, and Tidal, a music streaming service. These investors have diverse portfolios that extend beyond just X, reflecting their broad interests in the media and technology sectors. Is there a particular investor or media company you're curious about?
Yeah, give me more information on each one of these players. And isn't there some sort of conflict of interest when we have media companies also owning social media companies?
Sure, let's dive deeper into each of these key investors. Elon Musk. Investments. Musk's portfolio includes Tesla, electric vehicles, SpaceX, aerospace, Neuralink, neurotechnology, The Boring Company, infrastructure, and X, formerly Twitter. His investments are primarily in companies he founded or controls, focusing on technology and innovation. Larry Ellison. Investments. Ellison is the co-founder of Oracle, a major player in database software and cloud computing. He also has investments in Tesla and various real estate ventures. His involvement in media is more indirect, through Oracle's data management services, which are crucial for media companies. Prince Al-Walid bin Talal. Investments. Through Kingdom Holding Company, Prince Al-Walid has invested in several media giants, including News Corporation, Fox News, and Time Warner, Warner Media. He also has stakes in tech companies like Apple and Lyft. Qatar Investment Authority QIA. Investments. QIA has a diverse portfolio, including stakes in Miramax Films and the New York Times Company. They also invest in various sectors like real estate, banking, and technology. Andreessen Horowitz. Investments. This venture capital firm has backed numerous media and tech startups, including BuzzFeed, Substack, and Clubhouse. They focus on early-stage investments in innovative companies. Jack Dorsey. Investments. Besides co-founding Twitter, Dorsey is the CEO of Block Incorporated, formerly Square, which owns Tidal, a music streaming service. His investments are centered around social media and financial technology. Conflict of interest. The potential for conflicts of interest arises when media companies also own social media platforms. This dual ownership can lead to concerns about content bias. Media companies might influence the content and narratives promoted on social media platforms. Data privacy. The integration of user data across different platforms could raise privacy issues. Market power. Consolidation of media and social media can reduce competition, limiting diverse viewpoints and innovation. Regulatory bodies often scrutinize such mergers and acquisitions to ensure fair competition and protect consumer interests. Is there a specific aspect of these investments or potential conflicts of interest that you'd like to explore further? The Motley Fool.
multiple avenues by which we would have been affected. Sometimes it's by augmentation of similar symptoms we already have. At other times, it's through predisposition that activates with exposure to somebody like him. At still other times, it's normal people simply giving in to the pressure because there's immense emotional pressure behind mental symptoms. And so we just give in. Why do we treat Donald Trump with such kid gloves? Why do we relent to his unreasonable, unacceptable demands? Why do the media not hold him accountable? Consider just how much discourse we've had about Joe Biden's impairments.
Yeah.
And at that time, we seemed to consider that mental fitness was foremost of consideration, even if there were a hint
Right.
in Joe Biden. But with Donald Trump, where he's simply a walking and talking exposition of unfitness and dangerousness, we seem unable to discuss it. And well, those who have subscribed to his methods through augmentation of their own symptoms, or whether they simply see how powerful his symptoms are to the point where media organizations prosper or die depending on how they cover his symptoms. And so this kind of acquiescing, it's in part because of lack of information, lack of experience, and most people have not ever handled someone with such severe symptoms. The automatic response is to normalize it, to consider it, try to categorize it among things that are familiar, and to look away. We don't like to look at severe debility and problematic behavior, especially if it is aggressive and attacking. And he also makes use of our rules of politeness or etiquette, behavioral, social skills that people normally develop, as well as even legal and institutional norms. He co-opts them, and he escapes them in ways that would leave people defenseless. And that is the manipulative side, the conning and deceptive side that comes with his mental impairments of not having a conscience and not having ordinary human emotions, but pretending to have them. It will, and as well as attacking and harming others as a way of self-preservation in his mind. But of course, all of this is eventually destructive. And that is why it's so important to point out, and so important for people to respond to correctly.
Why can some of us see that and read him like an open book? Because I often refer to his brain as being quite transparent. It's so clear to me. My radar goes off all the time when he talks, obviously. But I can translate it on the fly. When he speaks, I know what he really means or what he's really thinking. Is that because I am infected with contagion, or is it that I have the antidote in my bloodstream? Why can some people decipher what he really means and other people take every word that he says as gospel?
Yes, I think the real question is, why can't many others, not see what is so clear to us? That he is not normal, that he is highly impaired, and that he can't state a single sentence or have a single conversation, participate in one debate, or even function in the office of the presidency without having all these impairments. He cannot participate in a rational, reality-based way. And why don't people see that? That is the effect of Trump contagion. That the first thing that goes with mental impairment is the ability to see that something is wrong. That self-awareness that allows someone to seek help and to seek treatment so that they could become better. In fact, they would escape and avoid all the doctors and hospitals and clinics, they would do anything then to present themselves for examination, because they are trying to avoid knowing that they are ill. Subconsciously, they know what is happening. So they will do everything to fight tooth and nail in order to avoid facing that reality. And in order to avoid facing that reality, they have to invent a new reality. They have to double down on their cherished beliefs and fight everyone who would contradict them. And that can turn into violence in extreme states. That is why we had the unprecedented violence in the insurrection against the US Capitol, when people thought that the election of Donald Trump was being stolen.
But they thought they were doing the right thing. They thought they were patriots. They thought they were on the right side of history. And we heard a lot of that in the legal cases where a lot of these people were prosecuted. When they were given the opportunity to speak, they said, he told me to do it. He told me the election was stolen. And so, that really is, that's all the proof you need to know that he is at the very center of this movement. He incidentally pleaded not guilty because this Jack Smith prosecution is back up in front of the judge, who has said, well, I'm not worried about the dates of the election, I'm worried about this case, which was very positive to hear. But again, him pleading not guilty, it's no surprise, but it just goes to show that he still has this tunnel vision. He still believes that he should be the president, or even is the president, and he still believes that the election was stolen when all the evidence says that it wasn't. I mean, the stuff I struggle with, Dr. Lee, is how many times do you have to tell him before he's going to concede? I mean, he did mention the other day, oh, I lost by a whisker. And that upset a lot of people on the right that he actually admitted it. Why would he start to say things like that now, that I lost by a whisker, when previously he's only ever said that he is still the winner and that the election of Joe Biden is fraudulent?
Well, it depends on his emotional ability to tolerate the truth, or lack thereof. And what we mistake is that we think that he thinks in rational terms, the way most of us respond, that there is a reality out there outside of ourselves, that we don't shape things according to our emotional needs. But it's that lack of ability to imagine someone with such severe impairments as he that prevents us from being able to interpret him the correct way. That's why education was so critical, where we were ready to go out in public to speak about what was happening. I was interviewing all day long for weeks on end, and the public was also hungry for it, because there was a lot that was inexplicable. Now, people have become familiar with the psychology of Donald Trump, but they have not become familiar with why the general public would respond to him the way it does. Why do people believe him? And why do people go along with the most outrageous, outlandish assertions? And why would they still support him despite a felony conviction and all the damage he has done to this country, if not to global stability?
And that's why the journalism that has been covering him, the failure by the media to understand the mental health element of this, means that renders most of their coverage irrelevant, because they're trying to normalize him. They are projecting an image of normality onto. He's been around for so long. I presume that there is this desire to say, well, if he survived for this long, then we need to project the idea that he is a real person with the same types of instincts and empathy as the rest of us, when none of those attributes actually exist within him.
Exactly. In fact, the particular disorders that he manifests are ones where he would not have human characteristics the way we conceive them, that he would not be capable of having empathy or conscience or fellow feeling with other human beings, and that he would respond with anger, revenge, and vindication, because he is essentially envious of others who are capable of this kind of relating. Of course, a part of him craves it, and stating that he doesn't need it, or that he rejects any offer of it is really the problem. And
because he's learned to mask, hasn't he? He has learned to operate in society when he needs to, and to give the impression that he is, quote, normal. And that is a kind of camouflage, isn't it? It's a survival technique for the narcissist and for the mentally impaired person, so that they can integrate and not be spotted for who they really are. We have to take a quick break, but I want to kind of go a little deeper into this, because I've just had a couple of ideas that maybe might help open this up for people watching who don't have experience of either living with a narcissist or having one in the family, and how I think those people really do get it. We'll come back and do that in just a moment here on The Weekend Show. When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Alo or Allbirds or Skiers, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing, but an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and for shoppers buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify, and the not-so-secret secret with Shop Pay that boosts conversions by up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going. So, if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling, on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout at shopify.com/weekend, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/weekend to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/weekend. We're back on The Weekend Show with Dr. Bandy Lee. The concept of a narcissist is something that some people will never come into contact within their lives, and others will be like, oh yeah, I dated a narcissist, or I was married to one, or we had a family member who was one that caused trouble, and they do. I mean, they can tear families apart by nature of their desire to manipulate people and to gaslight people. And I personally have found that the word gaslight is probably the most effectual word when discussing narcissistic personality disorder. Could you just explain, for those who maybe have never been involved with a narcissist, about that ability to infiltrate the mind, and how they can make people feel terrible about themselves, and the love bombing, and how one minute you're everything, and the next minute they don't seem to care, and so there's the reaching out. And because there are hundreds of books written on this subject, but are we saying that Trump is a malignant narcissist and therefore he falls in line with so many of these checkpoints? Is it as simple as that?
Yes. Well, I will just make one correction, that being a narcissist in general is just a description, because the spectrum of narcissism ranges from normal to pathological narcissism, to malignant narcissism, and then psychopathy. Psychopathy is actually on the same scale. And so for our normal functioning, we need a certain level of narcissism, a certain level of healthy sense of self. But when it gets to the area of pathological narcissism, it starts becoming destructive, because that's pathology. And that's why when people say all politicians are narcissists, it doesn't quite do justice to what we're seeing in Donald Trump and perhaps even some other politicians, because narcissistic personality disordered individuals disproportionately take on political and other dominant positions, not because they wish to do good for the country or the company or the organization, but because they wish to exploit their own ends. And that's why it's so important to make the distinction between normal narcissism, narcissistic proclivities, versus pathological narcissism. And yes, once people get involved with a pathological narcissist or beyond, more so malignant narcissists and psychopath, is absolutely devastating. Think of Charles Manson, Jim Jones, all these incredibly manipulative yet destructive figures.
And so, could I just ask, you work in prisons, you're amongst this kind of criminal community all the time, so which is why you were able to identify Donald Trump for who he really is very quickly. But this is often why, when we read about mass shootings or murder or these horrific events, and we're like, how can someone do that? Invariably, these people are along that spectrum of narcissism that you describe, and the narcissistic tendencies are often in these people. And Donald Trump falls into that category. And we've spoken before about how the numbers of people who died because of COVID due to his inaction are significant, and how you can live with that. And I saw him interviewed the other day and being asked about the shooting and how he felt since he was shot at. And he said, I don't feel anything. I have it didn't change me. I don't think about it. It doesn't really bother me. And I was like, wow. I mean, here again is another example of somebody who is subhuman in their description of themselves. So maybe you can just explain where on the narcissist spectrum Donald Trump falls, and if those tendencies match up with these criminals in history, or indeed people who have been prosecuted for these very serious crimes.
Yes. In fact, we did a psychopathy checklist on him because, and first of all, to be able to do that, it requires not just training in psychiatry, but training in forensic psychiatry or psychology. It takes extensive exposure to these individuals, both clinically and scholarly wise, and to familiarize oneself with research that is out there. And then there's specific training on performing the checklist. Well, when the sentencing date was announced, a group of eminent psychiatrists got together. Oftentimes we advise judges and probation officers on sentencing guidelines because someone's dangerousness or mental health contributions can play a role in the importance of deciding their sentencing. So we did one for Donald Trump, and it was submitted around the middle of June, anticipating sentencing in middle of July. Of course, that has been postponed to the middle of this month. And so all I can say right now is that one was done. We did a dangerousness risk assessment as well as a psychopathy level assessment, which plays a role in assessing dangerousness. And whereas the results we won't really reveal until to be able to allow Judge Juan Merkin to make his decision independently without public pressure, I can say that the dangerousness was off the charts. And in fact,
so Judge Merkin knows the stakes. He's not a bit of your. I mean, did they ask for that, or do you just submit it anyway as a duty to warn?
Yes. Well, I hope that he will have read it and will take it into account when he considers all the factors that are involved in his sentencing. We did send copies to him and the commissioner of probation, as well as the prosecutor. This was not ordered. This was not requested, but we, as psychiatrists and mental health experts, have an independent responsibility to respond to danger to the public. And that is one of our primary responsibilities. Given that our voice has been muted in the public, we decided that this was one avenue by which we could do our public service. And that's, it's not typical, but it is also not unheard of. Those who have important information for sentencing are allowed to submit it, yes.
Well, certainly important, especially in a country where the judiciary has been politicized by nature of the fact that it is politicians that nominate these judges a lot of the time, or judges having to run for election, which to me, coming from Europe, seems so weird as a system. And yet here it's has been completely normalized. And we've seen the effect of that with the Supreme Court's decision on the reversal of Roe as an example, to see what happens when politics creeps into the judiciary.
We also have a government where we do not have independent panels of experts that would be able to advise the government on various issues. We have to wait until the political players invite us to present our expertise. And that also can be a politicization or weaponization of knowledge, because there are certainly things that have nothing to do with politics that are important to be aware of, climate science being one, that would be important for those with knowledge to be able to advise lawmakers and policymakers. But we don't have that the way many other countries, many advanced countries do.
It's remarkable, though, isn't it? That the US is held up as being so advanced in so many ways, and yet over decades, its politics has been infiltrated by big business and big pharma, and we're hearing this all the time. These stories like Sweden or Norway, for example, it doesn't even figure. It's possible to have lobbyists walking the halls of Congress. And again, that's why people need to know about other systems and to recognize that, here in the US, so many people are institutionalized. Half the country doesn't have a passport, and so there is this kind of isolationist. There are downsides to telling the population that it's the greatest country in the world. Maybe we could just talk to that for a moment, because something I really find fascinating, this American exceptionalism, where you end up losing out on the checks and balances and the expertise because people are constantly reassured by nature of the culture that the greatest country in the world, it could never happen here. And yet we are currently facing a dictatorship and the fall of US democracy, and people are still saying, yeah, but it's the greatest country in the world and we will prevail. And those of us who are not from here are like, just look around.
That's correct. It's being the greatest country of the world does not come from just saying so or doubling down on that assertion, but actual performance. And the actual performance has been declining over time, as you know, the indices of education certainly, but even healthcare, even our prison system is the worst in the first world. Certainly the greatest number of prisoners are in just our population. And so what I've been observing over time is that disordered personalities, dangerous personalities who used to be confined in jails and prisons were increasingly infiltrating the business world, the corporate boardrooms, and the political world, and now even the presidency. And that's been a very impressive progression to me over the 25 years that I've been practicing, and extremely concerning. And how does that happen? It happens through spread of symptoms rather than a rational decision. There may have been other factors such as corruption or disinformation networks that have damaged the environment in ways that this could happen. But the end result is that more and more disordered individuals are taking on leadership positions, and the more they do, the more they will damage society, and more disordered individuals will arise as a result. And that is part of the epidemic that we're seeing. You stated earlier that it may be rare that one comes across a pathological narcissist, but it's not so rare anymore. It's about 1 in 10 of the population, and for those with the extreme end of that spectrum who are harmful to life, psychopathy is now over 1% of the population, and that's
increased. There are more now, say, 30, 40 years ago.
It's a disorder that's been spreading, and it has been marked in observing it take on important positions in society, when in fact it should be taking no important position in society.
Well, maybe we should talk about Elon Musk in this moment, because Trump said on Thursday he would establish a government efficiency commission headed by the billionaire supporter Elon Musk if he wins the election, during a speech where he was lying about all his policies and lying about Kamala Harris's policies. He's been discussing the idea of a government efficiency commission where people like Elon Musk would be given this kind of senior position. And also he said that Elon Musk had agreed to head the body, and Musk actually said on a podcast that he'd had these conversations. And he posted on Twitter, "I look forward to serving America if the opportunity arises. No pay, no title, no recognition is needed." Well, we've heard that before, with Donald Trump claiming to kind of give away his salary on one hand, and then on the other hand, he's fleecing the country for millions and millions of dollars. This is very dangerous, isn't it? We're talking about these dangerous personalities infiltrating government at the highest levels. The combination of Elon Musk and Donald Trump as a poisonous cocktail is very frightening.
Yes, look at what has happened with the Supreme Court. I stated even since the nomination of Brett Kavanaugh that an unfit president would be more likely to appoint an unfit appointee, no matter the position, And I was fearful of all the judges he was appointing. Multiple judges were even denounced by the American Bar Association for being unfit and unqualified. So having an unfit president who is constantly can be seen as trying to deny his unfitness will appoint only unfit candidates if he can help it. I've also seen that Elon Musk was transforming Twitter, formerly known as Twitter, into an extreme disinformation machine where everyone sees his tweets of extreme radical disinformation, and he elevates those spreading disinformation. He doesn't follow his policy of those that are extreme and dangerous should be banned, or in fact, he's doing the exact opposite. So this is a part of the environment that is shifting as a result of dangerous personalities taking over. In this case, Twitter was one of the most prominent platforms of information exchange. He took over it in order to transmogrify it into this.
To the tune of 44 it was never worth. It's now a third, but you don't spend that kind of money unless you have an agenda, unless there is a plan beyond the platform itself. And the irony is that Donald Trump was banned from Twitter for breaking the rules. Then this guy buys Twitter and doesn't just reinstate Donald Trump, but himself breaks all the rules, changes the algorithm so that his views and similar views are the ones that are more prominent, and then manages to get himself in a potential future Trump administration. I mean,
yes.
These are the baddies from the movies.
That's right. And they're using psychological manipulation and psychological violence, frankly, in order to achieve their aims. You mentioned the Russian propaganda earlier through Telegram. It's the same concept. Russians are highly adept at this because they've been running disinformation campaigns throughout the Stalin regime, and so had Nazi Germany. It's a major part of controlling a population to accepting oppression, its own domination and way of having willing subordinates. So now we don't need Russia to be doing this, because many have caught on, as well as many can relate to it. We are having so many influential people who are disordered. And that's why it's so important to inform ourselves, not only to guard our own mental health, but also to find some remedies to this, because just like we would not want toxins spread all through the drinking water around the country, we would not wish to have this in our informational atmosphere, controlling our thoughts and thought structures, as well as our psychological state eventually.
But it gets blamed on partnership, though, doesn't it? I mean, that's really the problem here, is that we're so divided that, or we think that we are divided. I don't personally believe we are divided as a nation, but I think that the media describes us as divided, and lawmakers describe us as divided, and so there is that natural tribalism. But it means that when the DOJ show up and say this is Russian interference, because it's three kind of YouTubers who have been Americans who have been infiltrated by the Russians, who are claiming that they didn't know anything about it. Benny Johnson, Tim Pool, and Dave Rubin. They've all said that they were victims of this Russian scheme, and that they thought they'd maintained editorial control of the content they created. And they have a combined reach of about 6 million viewers on YouTube. And so because we live in this country where people are like, oh, well, you've got an opinion. You're just a liberal, or, radical, or whatever. It means that the intellectual analysis, we never get to it, because people are just claiming that your view must be partisan, when this isn't about tribalism. This is about all of us staying safe in this nation, and seeing Russia as the enemy. It's all been that the lines have been muddied and blurred to the extent that there is almost no depth to any of the political discourse.
Yes. Well, the goal of mental pathology is to make everything relative so that there is no health versus disease, but there is only your opinion versus mine. And then eventually it's to invert what is health and disease. In other words, illness is health and health is disease. That's why we see so much rhetoric of mental illness in authoritarian regimes, the Soviet Union, for example, incarcerating in hospitals political dissidents, stating that they were mentally ill, did that, and so did Donald Trump to a certain degree. He calls everyone who's sane crazy, or heaps on Joe Biden all his own impairments in order to reverse health and disease. And as you can see from just how much we were carried away during the Biden campaign, that so much so that he had to give up his candidacy, just how effective that was, and how we were manipulated.
And he's still trying that, though, isn't he? He's saying crazy Kamala and communist Kamala. And in fact, Elon Musk posted an AI image of Kamala Harris dressed in a kind of Russian communist uniform with a cap, saying, "Can you believe she actually wears this?" So, and because the image was actually quite obviously generated by artificial intelligence, he was then kind of trying to cross the Rubicon of truth by saying, "Can you believe she actually wears this?" when the image was slightly cartoonish and obviously not what she wears. And I was thinking, why is he doing this? Why is he assuming that people will believe it? Is it in jest? I mean, he doesn't have a sense of humor, so clearly not. I mean, how do you explain that?
Yes, I saw that image. It doesn't even resemble Kamala Harris, but we know that Donald Trump ruminated for quite some time to try to figure out what kind of nickname would stick to Kamala Harris, because frankly, he was not able to find one, and he was not able to find a way to be effective. We had that kind of exuberance and energy that comes with health is something that's actually very frightening and cannot be imitated by pathology. That's why they resort to violence. It's a proxy for energy and productivity, whereas in fact it comes out of inertia and lack of content. Well, he finally arrived at Comrade Kamala, and Elon Musk is doing his best to use his platform to spread this image, because they will be relying on image, emotional conditioning, and not on any kind of rational argument.
And it's interesting because Kamala Harris she's the closest leader we've had to normalcy. She really is a real person. We watch her cooking at home with her family. We overhear her having conversations about normal things. She laughs and she expresses healthy emotions. And her love affair with her husband is so clear and beautiful to watch. And we don't get any of that from Donald Trump, and his wife now is completely estranged, it seems, and will only hold his hand in an emergency. And so it's so clear to me that you're not just voting for a Democrat or a Republican, you're voting for normalcy versus abnormalcy. And I'm hoping that people are really starting to see that with the level of health from Kamala Harris's campaign and goodness and inclusivity and diversity, that they recognize that is good against evil. We have to take another quick break, but you can answer that when we come back. But I also want to talk about the TV debates, because the CBS debate is coming up and they've agreed to terms, and we'll talk about whether or not it's a good idea or not. We'll do that next here on The Weekend Show. Did Rocket Money find any subscriptions you forgot about, or any you paid for twice and didn't realize it? Most Americans think they spend around $62 per month on subscriptions, but the real number is closer to $300. That's a big difference. Even if just a couple of subscriptions fall off your radar, those recurring payments you don't even know about can really add up. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Rocket Money's dashboard gives you a clear view of your expenses across all of your accounts. Easily create a personalized budget with custom categories to help keep your spending on track. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in cancelled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's features. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/weekend. That's rocketmoney.com/weekend. rocketmoney.com/weekend. We're back on the weekend show with Dr. Bandy Lee. So the TV debates are coming up, and there's finally been some agreement. There was a little confusion as to whether or not it was going to happen. Kamala Harris has traveled to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where she's preparing for this debate next week. I said it was CBS. It's actually ABC News who announced that both Harris and Trump have accepted the rules for this debate on the 10th of September, including muted mics when the other candidate is speaking. I have always been of the opinion that Kamala Harris or Joe Biden should never debate Donald Trump. He is not a normal candidate, as we've been discussing, but he is completely uncontrolled in these environments. And what people, I used to work on TV debate shows, so I know a lot about the studio environment. Even if the mic is muted, it doesn't mute him. And he doesn't care whether the little light is on or off. He will talk anyway. He will steamroll. And whilst the people at home might not be able to hear him, Kamala Harris will be able to hear him, and she will react to that because she will forget in the moment that he can't be heard. A car crash, and I just wish these debates weren't happening. What are your thoughts on this, and how should he be handled in these situations?
Well, I have said since the 2020 elections that a debate should not be held with Donald Trump, that alone normalizes him, makes him a candidate like no other, and we underestimate the level of manipulation he can perform and his beguiling, charming, spellbinding qualities. In fact, these disordered individuals are called spellbinders for a reason. Ruth Wilner gave that term in her, I think, 1984 book, stating that these individuals have a way of hypnotizing crowds because they are so tuned in, not in order to be a great entertainer or to be able to gain popularity, but to manipulate in a way that is predatory. So it's to manipulate and victimize is their goal. And so that's one of the reasons why I felt it was so urgent that mental health experts come to the fore in warning the public about what was happening and what we were seeing. Of course, the media at that time were very receptive to us because there was such a hunger on the part of the public. In fact, the public responded admirably, so much to the point where it surprised me. Because what was organic was that the public was so demanding mental health information. That's why our book catapulted to being an unprecedented New York Times bestseller of its kind. The publisher, one of the big five, took 5 weeks to try to keep up with the demand. And we heard of all kinds of anecdotes, people driving across the state to get to the one copy. And that was reflected in the fact that within 3 months, we were the #1 topic of national conversation. And the media were inviting me constantly. What was really surprising afterward, and there seems to have been a conscious decision from all the leaders of the media organizations that they were not going to air us no matter what. So the invitations kept continuing. I counted up to 70 times that I was invited by either CNN or MSNBC, and either after the car arrived or after I arrived at the studio or even after filming the segment. The segment would be canceled and nothing would air in the end. There was one show that did go through, that was Brian Stelter on CNN. And as I was walking into the studio, they practically gave me a standing ovation. They told me they tried over 50 times. Finally, they had me on. Perhaps this will be the beginning of many more. But of course, as we know, it ended with just one.
And they got rid of him in the end as well, didn't they?
Yes. A great loss.
Yeah.
And this is not organic. That's what I'm trying to say. People think, where are the psychiatrists? Where are the psychologists? We've been clamoring to try to get our voices heard. And among us were the most renowned psychiatrists and psychologists. And yet, how are we blocked out? And the end result is that the media, far from being neutral or even ineffective, it's actually harmful. This is exactly how media become the spreader of symptoms rather than mitigator of them and spreader of helpful information that would protect the public from these symptoms. And that's how Trump contagion became such a prominent presence in our society, that it alone explains all the irrational behavior, the severing of family relations and friendships in order to support this man against their self-interest and against their own reason if they were able to get back to that point.
And the debates are box office. We should remind people of that. And
Yes.
really, the debates should not be organized by the networks. They should be organized by Congress. They should be happening in the US Capitol. They should
Yes.
be in a much more, less showbiz environment where it is much more, civic in terms of its style and its responsibility. And then you allow the cameras to film it. But to have a kind of shiny floor and Saturday night style Dancing with the Stars studio and play on music and all this stuff, it glorifies the reality that we have a man who should be in a straitjacket in an institution who is being platformed to have the opportunity to brainwash viewers through the television, of which there will be millions. So therefore, why has Kamala Harris, who has every right to say, no, I'm not debating a mentally ill man and a despot and a future demagogue who will bring down US democracy. Why does she feel, or her team feel, that it is appropriate to get on a stage with him? Is it because she has form as a prosecutor and her ego is like, well, I can take him down, or I know how to handle him? Because my belief, as much as I respect and support Kamala Harris, Trump will own the debate, no matter what.
Whether he owns it or not, his symptoms will spread. That is conduit for the Trump contagion to further advance itself. And if he were to win, and even that prospect is unthinkable, it would not be because of certainly not because of his policies, not because of his actual ideology. It wouldn't be because people are making a rational, informed choice. It would all be because of Trump contagion. Why is the vote even close at this point? And you are correct. The correct response, the proper and appropriate response would have been to refuse a debate because he will not have the mental capacity to engage in a debate and to state the reality, which is that he is unfit to be president and he is unfit to hold a debate. He will co-opt it and distort it and manipulate it in ways that will be destructive and not constructive to the electoral process. But say so is currently so far removed from where the population is. I feel that when Kamala Harris and Tim Walz came up with the word weird, the entire population reacted as if that was such a relief for someone to say that he was abnormal. And the population, I would say, has been getting it the whole time. That's why our book, a specialized knowledge book by multiple authors, which is known on the New York Times bestseller list, shot up. We would have been number one if we just had enough books. That the public was getting it. The population was hungry for it, and we had that opportunity. That with the proper knowledge, we would have been able to intervene. In fact, Congress members told me so when I met with over 50 Congress members. They told me in private, which surprised me very much, that that their intervening politically depended on our educating the public medically, and that they were depending on us. When I thought of it, it was what would be the most reasonable route. But because our media are so show business oriented, as you were saying, for whatever reason, it was a decision made not because of the type of information we were offering. It was not even because of our effectiveness, because we were very effective in the beginning, so much so that a senior respected journalist told us that pretty much we had arrived. We had achieved the goal of convincing the public that that this was an important issue. And that was when we were shut out. I believe
but
not
you
because
upset the system, didn't you? You got in the way of the traditional route map that the media likes to follow and profit from. And that is to do these debates, to have, everything is preset and predetermined, in the same way that when a senior person passes away, the obituary is pre-written. You know how you're going to handle that when it happens. And I feel like, this is why we've seen this huge rise in independent media, such as shows like this and Meidas Touch, because there is no kind of corporate overlord or interference by big business or political connections. And where, my only direction really is pro-democracy and to see democracy falling is enough of an incentive to keep trying to get out the message. And I'm sure it's the same with you.
Yes.
Let's just talk for a second, because Liz Cheney has come out and endorsed Kamala Harris. She said she will be voting for Kamala Harris. And as we know, Liz Cheney is one of the most high-profile critics of Donald Trump. She, a lifelong Republican. Her father, Dick Cheney, of course, serving in the several Republican administrations previously. She said she'll do whatever it takes to prevent a second Trump administration. My question to you really is, why is it only her and Adam Kinzinger that have actually laid their belief, lost their congressional seats because of it, when there are hundreds of Republicans, lawmakers, who have the same opinion? They know that Trump is nuts. They know he's a threat to democracy. They know that he, will literally crash and burn the democratic institutions that keep America safe. And yet they cannot bring themselves to step up and do the same as Liz Cheney. Why not?
Right. Because of the spread of Trump contagion. It's become so prevalent and so oppressive over our society that and so powerful that media organizations and political organizations, including an entire party, has decided to side with this incredibly powerful yet destructive force. And I imagine in part because they don't understand it fully. I hope it is. But regardless, they will have lost the awareness that survival of the country and its democracy is more important than winning. But they will probably not be able to see that because the pathology has already taken over their ability to reason. And
but they're scared of him, though, aren't they? They're scared of what he will do to them, how he will ridicule them, how they will lose their seats because of him and lose his endorsement. So there is an element of emotional and professional blackmail involved as well.
Yes, well, it may start that way, certainly, but later on it will follow no reason or rational calculation even. It will be, in the end, destructive all around. That's the characteristic of mental pathology, that no matter how adamantly one espouses it and claims one believes in it, it will lead to destruction and death. That's why pathology should be distinguished from ordinary political ideology, which is always life-affirming, regardless able to compromise and discuss in ways that are rational and peaceful instead of violent and perilous. Well, you were mentioning safeguarding democracy. Well, my goal is to safeguard our collective mental health. And I've often stated that that's the equivalent of democracy in our time in history. And that's how collective mental health manifests. That's why democracies tend to be prosperous and peaceful. And we don't see the kinds of dystopian strife and violence if elections do not go their way, and the inability to make compromises or discuss in a rational manner, and also the elevation of unfit leaders. Dangerous leaders rise in weak democracies, because if democracies were strong, knowledge, intellectuals and journalists would be thriving, they would be informing the public, and we as mental health experts would not be silenced in the way that we had been. In fact, when the American Psychiatric Association first came out stating that psychiatrists shouldn't be speaking up about this, about Donald Trump, even in a national emergency, that actually reminded me of the reason for the Geneva Declaration. The Declaration of Geneva is a universal pledge that all health professionals take, because of the experience of Nazism. It came out of the Nuremberg trials. And so instead of stating the Hippocratic Oath, we pledge to the Declaration of Geneva, which states that either cooperation or silence in in the presence of a destructive regime is unethical and contrary to the humanitarian goals of medicine. And that's where we are right now, back to pre-Nuremberg trials, where the reason for the Declaration of Geneva was because so many medical professionals, physicians, nurses, colluded with the Nazi regime in, well, you know, pretty much what happened, the torture and the distinction of who should be euthanized and how people should be effectively killed. So knowledge could be put to good use for the good of the people, or it could be used in nefarious, secretive ways as it currently is. Because even though mental health expertise is the last to be offered to the public, it is certainly the first to be employed by all these mechanisms that are doing harm, such as social media organizations, the political Republican Party itself has adopted business advertising techniques, which comes from psychology, as I...
Right. I mean, it goes back as far as Coca-Cola and subliminal advertising and all of those kind of tricks that they employed, and that was back in the 1950s. I was trying to come up with a litmus test for Trump contagion, and I'm going to run it by you. You don't know about this, so I just want, finally, because we have to finish, but I was thinking that if somebody says, well, I just don't know who to believe anymore, or, you know, they're all corrupt, or, you know, all politicians, they're all liars, I think that those three statements would suggest that you are suffering from Trump contagion. What do you think?
Yes, absolutely, because that's what Trump has pressured people to believe, and that's how he's been able to get into the minds of other people. So Trump contagion simply means that his symptoms have spread. His thought structure, his false beliefs, and his quickness to violence and attack, all these things are symptoms we see in him that have spread through the culture. And mental symptoms actually spread more rapidly because we are all social animals and interconnected in more ways than we recognize. So certainly it has had an effect on just about everybody who hasn't been living in a cave. By the way, my book is out in hard copy.
Oh, it is.
So I just like to mention that people can go to Amazon and look up The Psychology of Trump Contagion, An Existential Danger to American Democracy and All Humankind. It's now out available in hard copy.
That's great. And I should also remind people to visit bandylee.com and get details of the conference that she is planning, which hopefully will bring even more attention to this. But for now, Dr. Bandy Lee, thank you for joining the Weekend Show.
Thank you again for having me.
I'm Anthony Davis. Don't forget to support me and independent journalism at patreon.com/5Minute News. You can see and hear more from me on the 5 Minute News YouTube channel and podcast. And I'll be back with Dr. Bandy Lee next Sunday, right here on the 5 Minute News Weekend Show with Meidas Touch.
As the possibility of a Taylor Swift endorsement of Kamala Harris grows more and more likely, we see MAGA more and more enraged, in their war against the most popular and famous singer in the world keeps getting stranger and weirder, but it also gets worse for them. And we see that at the Fox propaganda outlet, who have long been angry with Taylor Swift as a vocal opponent to Donald Trump and a registering voters. Yes, last year we saw that Jesse Waters and the rest of the MAGA Fox hosts so upset, really just losing their minds because Taylor Swift was encouraging her young audience to go and register to vote.
Yeah, this is the state of the fucking world.